this big question mark over it. You would have seen yesterday the statements that were issued by Action SA and also by the ANC, both parties meeting and then issuing statements. Very short statements, I must say, but both of them sort of having very clear sentences in there around the VAT. From the part of Action SA and its media release, they talk about how, following that meeting, that there was a mutual commitment to ensure that revenue alternatives are tabled that will identify alternatives to the VAT increase. In this regard, both parties are unequivocally committed to this process and to shield South Africans from any increase before the 1st of May 2025. That's what Action SA said in its statement. The ANC, in its statement, says the ANC and both Action SA have reaffirmed the necessity of identifying viable alternatives to the proposed VAT increase with a mutual commitment to avoid any such adjustment before the 1st of May 2025. And, they both talk about how they spoke solely about the fiscal framework and budgetary issues and no talks about any kind of reconfiguration of the GNU. Does that give you confidence about what can still happen in the 21 days before we get to the 1st of May? Yes, we know other political parties are challenging that VAT increase within the courts, but the reason why parties such as the DA, such as BOSA, decided to vote and support that fiscal framework was based on just this commitment that there would be some form of amendment done before the end of April. Does that statement, or do those statements from both Action SA and the ANC give you any confidence about the shape and the nature of conversations that are taking place behind the scenes? Do you believe that we won't have a VAT increase by the end of the month? Of course, yesterday afternoon in Parliament, the Treasury reaffirmed the fact that the fiscal framework needed, that the VAT increase was justified given the state of the fiscal framework. The political parties seemingly have taken their position, but what is government going to do? Is this a message that is going to filter through to Parliament and the voting that needs to take place? It just feels like we are on this merry-go-round, right? And South Africans, of course, are directly affected. I wonder who you think will be the biggest losers if this VAT increase goes ahead on the 1st of May. Of course, you and I, as those that are going to live with the consequences of it, but politically, what do you think the implications of that are going to be? And where would that leave parties like Action SA and others who have been so vehement in their position that they believe that the ANC will follow through on its commitment to rethink the VAT increase? So it's just one of those to keep watching. And in the midst of that, of course, government also postponing a cabinet meeting that was scheduled to take place this week. So clearly the negotiations in the GNU are still, things are still very much on rocky ground, and we are still very much in that state of limbo. So I'll take some of your calls and views on that on 086 000 2032. I'm calling on the political thinkers this morning, right? I want to know, how are you dissecting and unpacking some of these events? What do you think is happening here? On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614104107. Today, of course, is a Thursday, so we'll be getting into Municipal Watch. will be focusing on Ntwane village that is out in Limpopo. And in this particular community, members of the community within the Elias Motsoaledi municipality had come together to build their own bridge, right? So you have basically crowdfunding that has taken place, different members of the community donating towards the construction of this bridge. They then reach out to the municipality, ask for their support. They get the Human Rights Commission involved in the process too. All to say that despite all of those efforts, where they are today is that they still don't have a bridge. But of course, there's a lot that has happened, and we'll take a look at it, including the fact that the municipality then came in and, as an intervention, bought some material or gave them material that residents argue was material left over from other projects. So they took material from other projects, as the allegation, and dumped it on the residents and said, well, here you go. This is our contribution towards helping you build your bridge that we are supposed to be building. I mean, some of these things, you can't make it up, hey? But the issue there is also that the Human Rights Commission looked into the matter and they closed the case before it was actually concluded. So we'll have all the stakeholders on the line in the second hour of the show. And then the final hour of the show, we're going to take a look at the relationship between government and the relationship between business and the government of national unity. And this is in light of what we've been tracking around the Rand. You would have seen, of course, the Rand has been hovering at around 1950, almost breaching that 20 mark. And many market commentators will say that part of why it remains at those levels is because of what is happening with the GNU. You also saw the statement over the weekend coming from business around the fact that it supports the government of national unity. But what is this relationship between business and political parties, and in particular the GNU? Well, somebody who's been writing about it is none other than Professor J.J. Tabane. So we'll have him on the show in the final hour, and we'll get his reflections on what might be at play. So do ensure that you stay tuned in for that. So that's a look at what's coming up on the show over the next 3 hours. I'll take your calls on the open line. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
The Saints are pumped up to fight even harder in search of 3 points on home ground.
And Smallbone has scored his first Premier League goal. Liverpool stood like statues.
Meanwhile, the Villains are chasing a win to secure a decent top half spot.
Tielemans to Rashford. Rashford fires it in. Oh, it's got in! It's turned over by Marco Asensio again. 2 from him, 2 for Aston Villa, and 3 points surely.
This is the Premier League. Experience the thrilling encounter between Southampton FC and Aston Villa FC on Saturday, 12 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
At Buco, we know that every successful building project starts with quality and ends with pride. From small contractors to big builders, we're here to ensure that you have the tools, materials, and support to do the job right the first time. With Buco, you're never building alone. We are right here, ready to make your project a lasting success, from the foundation to paint. For every step and every build, begin with Buco.
Buco. Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start things off in the Western Cape this morning. Les, good morning to you.
Hi, how are you? Cathy?
Yes, I'm good. Go for it, Les.
Okay. No, I want to talk about the VAT that is going to affect us at the ground, whereby the Action South Africa and the BOSA, those are the parties that vote with ANC. In intention that they said, in other promise, they think that the VAT increase of 0.5 will never take place within 30 days, of which that was a lie. That was a camouflage agreement between Action South Africa and the ANC. As a result, right now, we get some SMS from the bank and whatsoever that the VAT increase is going to be implemented on the 1st of May. So, in this case, that if I can check, the Action South Africa and the BOSA, they were sell out.
So Les, of course, the banking institutions and the financial institutions are issuing those statements, right? Because it's regulatory, it's mandatory. The statements yesterday out of Action SA and the ANC are an attempt to say that, yes, we know that you're seeing all of these messages from your financial institutions about the adjustments coming up, but we want you to know that we are still going to do everything possible to stop the VAT increase by the 1st of May. Why don't you believe them, Les? Or why don't you believe those comments coming out of those parties?
The agreement is not binding. The agreement is not binding. And the treasurer, as we heard Ramaphosa when he talked in Shawela, as we heard Fikile Balula, everybody when he's talking, there's no binding that shows that that is VAT increase. Maybe they can. I don't think I listened to Emil Mashaba when he's interviewed by Clement Mangatela in 702. The guy didn't know what was going to happen after that. He was hypocritical, which means they signed these things. They agreed to vote with ANC emotionally. It seems as if they were emotional when they voted with ANC to upset the DA so that the DA may quit that thing. If you can check, the Action South Africa and the BOSA leaders, those are the leaders that are coming from the DA. It's when I come to that point of emotional, this is the case that I can see that they voted with ANC emotional, knowing that no, this thing cannot be happened.
So then what is the point of these meetings? What is the point of these press statements in your view? What are they attempting to do?
You say, what are they going to do?
I'm saying that what do you think they're hoping to achieve with the meetings that they're holding, the press releases that they're issuing, giving, assurances to South Africans that they're still working on the VAT issue?
That is, as a result, you will see these things between the Action South Africa and the ANC. The reward that the ANC can get is when Ramaphosa is going to reshuffle the cabinet, whereby the Action South Africa will be given an opportunity to join the GNU. We, as the people of South Africa, as a VAT payers, there's nothing that we are going to gain for these things. And then in this case, if I can check it, this is what I can see. The only problem is the negotiations about the VAT increase when it comes to the DA. When the negotiations of the VAT increase when it comes to the DA, the ANC is divided, whereby Mashatile is no longer interested for the DA to be in the GNU, whereas Ramaphosa still needs patience and still needs to the DA to be in the GNU. In this case, if you can check, yes. Therefore, the GNU want to exclude the DA because the DA fight for 0%.
Okay.
And as a result, Mashati and other division of the ANC, if the DA is out there, Ramaphosa is no longer safe. The vote of no confidence can take place at any time whereby he's going to be removed and then implement someone as a caretaker president.
Sure.
So that
Okay.
Chapter will take over there. So these things, you see, we are played. We are played by the political leaders.
Les?
Want, okay?
Les, I'm going to thank you there out in the Western Cape for that very comprehensive analysis of what Les believes is at play. I enjoyed that analysis, by the way, Les. Thomas in KwaNdebele, do you agree with Les?
Sis Cathy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. And by the way, I'm more than happy to take more calls on the political analysis. I did say that I want the political thinkers to come out of the woodwork today.
Then, unfortunately, you've gotten yourself someone who is quite a novice in the political field. But I'll tell you something, Sis Cathy. I always criticize people for being loyal to individuals rather than the political party itself. You know, people would be loyal to Julius Malema instead of EFF. So whatever Julius Malema does, it's good. Whatever Cyril Ramaphosa does, it's good. Without being critical of the political party. People are afraid to criticize their own political parties. Now, I feel that I am a victim of this as well because I am an Action SA voter. And I find myself unable to really criticize my party because I'm still waiting for the 1st of May. Call it being naive, call it being ignorant, but I one thing I know for a fact is that Action SA has proven itself to be a political party that takes care of people. I've been in Joburg during Helen Masharo's time, and I see what's going on in Tshwane. So I got a message from Capitec yesterday saying that VAT is going up. So I'm afraid of what's going to happen. But I think right now all we can do is wait and see.
So Thomas, when the message from Capitec came in, what was going through your mind? Were you like, okay, I need my party to get on this as soon as possible?
I felt like calling him and myself and saying, "Entertainment, come on, man, you're making me look bad." Because my father is a DA voter, so you can imagine how awkward it is when we have to sit in front of the TV and watch the news and hear DA and Action SA go at each other. So it's what a time to be alive in SA. Huh?
Oh, Thomas, thank you so much. What a perspective. Thanks for calling in with that. Thomas out in KwaNdebele. Look, at least you have the press statement. You know, you've got that to hang on to for now. You can show that to everybody who's fighting with you, at least until the end of April. And I think that's really a reflection of the sentiment of a lot of people in the country right now, right? Because on the one hand, there's the reality of the VAT increase looming. On the other, there's should you hope that it won't go ahead based on what the likes of Action SA, the ANC, are saying about it. There's, of course, the court action that could also have a bearing on whether or not it's effected come the 1st of May. All right, we'll take the latest 9:30 news headlines. I'm back with your calls. It is the National Roundtable. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107.
Good morning. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says gender-based violence contributes to social issues such as poverty and inequality. He delivered the keynote address at the 17th Biennial Conference of the International Association of Women Judges in Cape Town yesterday. 3 suspected robbers have been killed and 8 others arrested on Soutpan Road in Shoshanguve, north of Pretoria. Police say the suspects blocked a cash van and robbed it of an undisclosed amount of cash. And as today marks 32 years since the assassination of then South African Communist Party General Secretary Chris Hani, the party says it's still not satisfied with the investigation into his murder. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
#SAFM Talking Point. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
I hate to think what will happen if that VAT is increased, not only to us ordinary citizens who are on pension. Cyril Ramaphosa doesn't consider that at all. They're sitting in their cushy seats with their cushy salaries, driving their luxury cars and wearing their designer clothes, eating caviar and champagne. To hell with the rest of us, eh? And politically, I think we'll be in a shambles. But they should stop thinking about their egos and their pockets, and they should think about the citizens of South Africa, like you and me, as you say.
Morning, Cathy. You're speaking to Peter here in Cape Town. Cathy, I think these Mohlahlana parties, we need to reconsider voting them. They have sold us. How can they go ahead and then vote with the ANC for this VAT, which will affect more poor people? So for them, it's all about their positions. So we need to consider in future when we come to vote to not vote for these small parties. They are actually deceiving people.
Cathy, I don't think we can believe the political parties. They have turned on us after we voted for them. They turned on us. They went into relations with the ANC, whom they called the devil. So no. And for the ANC itself, I can never take their word. They're a bunch of liars, and I guess I can say all of them. Terry.
Hi, John from Durban. Firstly, the court cases are public relations exercises from the DA and a little bit from the EFF. The court can't interfere in what government is legislating. It's not unconstitutional or anything like that. As painful and as much as I am totally opposed to this VAT increase, I think it's more politicking from the DA especially. DA is too firmly entrenched and wants more power, so I can't see them leaving the GNU. They'll in fact now they have their hands on the levers of power. So it's again politicking. And Helen Zeller's further shift to the far right. As far as the ANC goes, highly disappointing, but then what's been new for the past 25 years, sadly, for those of us who are always supporters of the ANC.
All right, as you can hear there, high levels of distrust in the political parties and whatever commitments that they have made around making sure that there is no VAT increase come the end of the month. Rightfully so. I think the skepticism is justified. Romeo, you're in KZN. You want to talk about the police summit. Good morning.
Good morning, Jessica. How are you this morning?
Doing good, Romeo. Go for it.
Thank you very much, and a greeting to all fellow listeners of SFM. I just want to talk about, I heard the Premier, as he was addressing, challenging the President that the crime is escalating in the country due to the fact that people are just coming into the country, left, right, center, with not even registered. We don't even know where they stay. We don't even know. Crime cannot be committed because you do not have ID. Crime can be committed by those who have got ID and those who do not have. But what is very important is, I think that the government is the elephant in the room. From the day one, when people started to move in, government should have come up with a solution how to resolve this problem to register those people that are coming in the country from other countries, fellow African countries. Perhaps they could have devised an ID, a red ID or a yellow one with a condition on it every 6 months renewal or after every 3 years renewal. But at the end of the day, these people are registered and they are known. Unlike to rush all over all these legal foreigners, if I may think of it, I think plus or minus 8 million people who might be in the country which are not even registered. So the government should have come up with an idea. We cannot blame Home Affairs. This is a political will. The government should direct Home Affairs to do something, and when they do it, people, they pay, they are willing to pay whatever any amount which has been directed. If it is 300 for you to acquire that, as long as people are registered, it's very important. Fingerprints are there, and you know where you say, if anything happens.
Romeo, what about the fact that there are people who are deliberately avoiding registration?
In that case of those who are avoiding, equally the same, they might have run away from their countries, being highly criminals who does not want to be known in the country due to the fact that if they are known, they will simply be identified and the Interpol will come for them. So that would be fewer of them, unlike the rest. Quite a number of people who are coming, they are coming for reasons such as, like to say, they are coming to help themselves and to help their families. My point is only that I just want these people must be registered. If they are to be given a notice of moving away from the country, they know that this one and this one has been identified as a liability in the country. He must move away from the country. But being registered is very important. Unlike when they are not registered, you take them out today with about 120 million rands. The next day, we have got another 200,000 people who are in the country. How does it help? It's not going to help.
Okay, Romeo. Romeo out in KZN. We'll leave it there. Sbusiso, you're in Newcastle. Good morning. Good morning, Sbusiso. Okay, not sure what's happening with him there. David, you're in Pietermaritzburg. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks, Cathy. Just briefly on the discussion that you had with an official from SIRA. Cathy, from listening to the discussion and also the complaints that we normally receive from security personnel who are highly exploited in this sector, serious scrutiny must be put on SIRA. They've been sleeping on the job, and as you correctly said yesterday, they are now overwhelmed. I heard him saying that they are conducting inspections. If they are conducting inspections, as you said, we wouldn't be having so many problems around this sector. There wouldn't be private security brandishing rifles almost every day. Wherever we go to the malls, you see them, in parties, in events that we attend, they are there. So if SIRA is really doing the job as the guy pointed out, there wouldn't be such high exploitation. Some of the security personnel, they're getting paid on the 50th. So if you're getting paid on the 50th, there's nothing that you can do. You cannot take care of your family because the financial institutions will not be able to give you the support that you need. Even the contributions that they made on the pension and the UIF, they are not getting anything because these guys, they siphon those million rands that are being paid by security personnel. So for me, it's either that regulatory body should be dissolved because they've failed to do their job. On the issue of the cash heist, I don't understand, Kate. I've noticed the money that is being transported from the Reserve Bank. It's normally being escorted maybe by 6 or more vans, private security carrying heavy guns, and I've never heard of that money being robbed. So I don't understand as to why other money that are being transported, there is not such security that escorts it like the one that is being taken from Reserve Bank. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, David. David out in Pietermaritzburg. Yeah, look, I think that for me, one of the concerns that I have coming out of that conversation with Sarah yesterday, and it's probably something we need to think about as a country, given the nature of the industry that we're focusing on, is the question about, the market and at the point at which it becomes oversaturated. Because as long as companies are still being registered and being given licenses, etc., it compounds to the problem that is being faced. And if you look at just also how lucrative the security industry has become, if there's 17,000 companies registered with CIRA currently, over 600,000 security guards belong to those organizations. Now, if you are to double that number in the next 3 to 5 years, what does that mean for the country? And don't forget that the head count of the SAPS is only 180,000. So there's something about that picture that doesn't sit right. We can't have private security being so overwhelmingly bigger as an industry than even our own state security or security apparatus. There's something about it that it doesn't sit well with me, and I'm sharing these thoughts. They're still very raw, coming out of that conversation yesterday, but I do think that there are some red flags for me that are coming up. Manta, you're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Cathy, good morning, Cathy. Cathy, ANC is a joke. I really don't know people who vote for ANC, what do they feel or what do they hope for? JJ Tabane used to call them prisoners of hope. They are just prisoners of hope. They hope that something better will come out of ANC one day. They must come out of the shackles of the ANC, these people that keep on voting for this ANC. These people have failed for the past 30 years. They've ruined the economy. The economy is not growing. Unemployment is sitting at 4%. There's crime, borders, men, foreign nationals come in and out here in this country. There's a mess everywhere. If ANC was a business, who would take his money and invest in ANC? I mean, that person who would do that thing would have his mind examined. You see, Cathy, these people, they had 3 weeks to work this thing of VAT. You remember, it was urgent, and then they had time to sort out this thing of VAT. The GNU parties. What were they doing that time? ANC was just busy with the side chicks and expensive wines, going to expensive restaurants, buying expensive clothing. That's what they were doing in the past 3 weeks. They did nothing, these ANC people. And they were mocking the DA, saying the DA came up with a catalog of things that have nothing to do with the VAT. What were they doing? At least DA was doing something. What were they doing, these ANC people? And they mocked and insulted Edward Kieswetter. Edward Kieswetter came up with proposals. Instead of listening to him, a dedicated South African who wants to see this country successful, they insulted him, Godongwana, and the other ANC minister. You see, now they want us to believe that now they're going to come up with an alternative. These people are a mess, the ANC. They are a mess.
Okay.
That must get into their thick skin that they cannot govern this country. They cannot. They have failed for the past 30 years. They must give other people a chance to make this country a successful country.
Sure, Mandla. Very strong sentiments there, hey? So I guess you're not buying any of it. Yeah, strong words from Mandla. Spusiso, you're in Newcastle. Good morning.
Hi, Cathy. Cathy, when I phoned, I told you, producer, I wanted to speak about, congratulate the MKP member who picked up the cameras for the News Africa team in Nanda in the robbery that happened, I think it was the day before yesterday, and then returned it to the owners, to the rightful owners. I was very proud about that. But I'm changing the topic. I want to talk about how the IFP, this time, not the ANC, has ruined our municipalities here. You know, I've just been driving, and I passed a young boy. I think he must be. He's been trying. It's hot here, so he saw some water puddle, and he put his feet in the water there. He was resting. And about a kilometer up the way, that water actually is not rainwater, it's actually sewer that's just flowing all over our townships. I'm in Midday in Newcastle. I'm talking about section 1 down there, and it broke my heart, Cathy, to see a young boy putting his feet in sewerage in our townships. And up the stream there, you can see the thing that is blocked up there, and the storage is flowing in our townships. The less said about the potholes, the better. Are you still there, Cathy?
I'm listening, Spusiso.
The less said about the state of our roads, the better. The situation is so dire, you just don't understand what's happening. They don't even cut the grass along the roads. The IFP is a disaster for our communities. The sooner we vote these people out, the better. The ANC was actually better, I can say. But the IFP here, they don't know where is left and where is right.
Okay.
But generally, our black communities, please, I think we must improve. This thing of just playing with our people and people, I'm asking myself, what do they do when they go to work? Using the same roads. I guess the councillors and the mayors are using the same roads. They see this sewerage flowing all over our locations. It truly breaks my heart. We see these pampas all over. It's very, very sad. I still remember when I was in school how our teachers would be angry when you walk over the paper and you don't pick it up. Just a paper, And we have pampas all over our locations. It's a very sad situation.
Spusiso, and the last part of what you're saying is sort of the imagery that came up in my mind. It was to say what you're describing, you can lift it up, copy paste, pick a province, pick a township, and the unfortunate reality is that you are going to be met with the very same picture. And
exactly.
You think about the comments, the opening clip that we started off with today, and Chris Honey talking about social justice and the fight to attaining social justice. And our reality is that we are so far, so far from where we wanted to be as a country.
The saddest thing, Cathy, is that the trajectory of our movement is away from where we want to go. That's the saddest thing. Somebody has to arrest this thing, turn it around 360 degrees into the right direction first. Thank you, Cathy.
All right. Spusiso Newcastle, thanks for that call. Okay, let me take a quick break. I'm back with more of your calls after this.
Last season's finalists, Basandawana, want to reach another final, but Amakosi believe their fans deserve a special ticket to the final. This is the Nedbank Cup semi-final contest. Kiona! Catch Mamelodi Sundowns versus Kaizer Chiefs on Sunday, 13 April, live streaming on SABC Plus and SABC One at 5:30 p.m. Then on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
It's an interesting time with regard to the Trump administration.
South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it.
Of course, everybody's doing a calculation and speculating on what could be included. The safest thing to do is to get confirmation from the US as to how they arrived at the number.
The African countries almost have to think of what I would call the coalition of the wounded, looking into various countries and saying who has been badly affected by the US and how can they open up the room for engagement on that.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. It is your national roundtable. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032 is the number to dial this morning. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. Temba, you're in Protea Glen. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, sir. Go for it.
I'm good. Hey, you know, things that are happening in this country, you just don't know where to run to, understand? So tough times. On the question of Krizani, the late Krizani, you know, they say good things about Krizani. When Krizani was assassinated, I was doing Standard 8, 1993, in one of the high schools that participated in the armed struggle. It was a powerhouse during the 80s. Understand? So the news about the assassination of Krizani, it shocked us. I understand, and we used to believe to our black leaders like Kabo Krizani that once they take over, they will take South Africa from where it was to a better world. Understand? But now, the whole history about our black leaders who participated in the struggle. You can name Steve Bantu Biko, Abu Kadega, and Sparuga Mkonto. Understand? That history now, it's been shut down. It's slowly fading away from our mind. We don't believe to those leaders anymore that they were really fighting for black people. Understand? Because of the current leadership, the way they are behaving. Understand? They shut down everything that about those leaders. Maybe they were not even good. They were just pretending to be good. Understand?
Temba,
So
but how does the failure of the current crop of leaders take away from what those in the past have done? How does it dent their credibility?
It dents them because what they are. When you listen to Steve Bantu Biko and others, Albert Lutuli, when you and Krizani, you listen to their speeches. They speak their speeches. It's all the same. It's either land or it's either they are fighting to improve the lives of black people. Understand? There is no difference. Understand? They speak the same language. Understand? But here they are today. Even though Steve Big is no longer there and Chris Ane, they are no longer there. The current one, they still have that mentality. Understand? They walk in the same path. Understand? But look what they are doing. When they see money, then all their dreams deviate from good to evil. Understand? We see evil leaders. Understand? Who used to preach good stuff. Bring back our land. We want our land. We want to improve the black lives. Black lives matter. You understand? Where are they? They are driving nice cars, bragging, buying expensive whiskeys. I have never seen this kind of a leadership where their focus is to buy alcohol. You can go to liquor shops. You will see these people buying 48 Savannas, Hennekens, whiskeys, and then you see a flag of a ANC in the same car, driving those big cars. Sure. Understand? While people they languished in the poverty. So that the history about our leaders, about Steve Bantu Biko, it's been tainted so badly by the current leadership of the and it's a disgrace. It's really a disgrace. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay.
And then let me tell you something. I used to follow you while you're still in Anchor, and then my family will say, "Hey, you like Cathy? Hey, this one is my favorite." You know, when I listen, you used to be a good reader. You'll read news. You know, compared the current. Those they can't read news, understand? You don't even understand. Do they hear what they are saying? Hey, you were very good, understand?
All right, Temba, thank you for the compliment. Let's leave it there. Thanks for the compliment. All right, let me see. Let me wrap it up with JCK in Musina. JCK, good morning.
Hi, Sis Cathy. Compliments. Hey, a good reader, good one. Sis Cathy, why are we getting punished for the sins committed by the government? Why are we punished for the incompetence and the uncaring of the government? How many millions is government losing in hijacked buildings whereby rent is not paid, water is not paid, electricity is not paid? The government can get the tax money from there. You understand? How many billions is the government losing in SASA, whereby neighboring countries are benefiting? It's time the church fraternity lead a march from Cape Town to Musina to bring South Africa to a standstill. Those politicians from Ramaphosa, the president, downwards, they are volunteers from their respective political parties. So if they are volunteers, they can cut their salaries. A volunteer doesn't get this much. If us, the taxpayers, who tell them how much to get. It's time the government to do the right things, Scotty. These people are irritating us. And I got a message today from Vodacom that is from the 1st of May, the tariff change. The mean government is hating us. Government is hating us. Okay. Let me rest my case for now. JCK Kaunda from Sina.
Yeah, thanks for that call, JCK. Yo, so many people are angry, hey? If what is reflected in that open line is anything to go by, people are so angry about some of the state of affairs in the country right now. And it just hit me because that's just the overall sentiment that has been expressed by many of you that have called in on the open line. I wonder if those in power, if it means anything to them, if all of these emotions, all of this frustration, if it means something. It's time for the latest news update.
In our top stories, President Ramaphosa highlights link between GBV and social issues, and Polokwane International Airport still experiencing flight delays. Good morning. The 17th Biennial Conference of the International Association of Women Judges in Cape Town will enter its second day today with deliberations on diversity, equality and inclusion, as well as human trafficking and marginalized communities. Approximately 900 delegates comprising of all women judges, magistrates, legal professionals and policymakers from across the world have convened under the theme Resilience, Women in Leadership to End Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa says gender-based violence contributes to social issues such as poverty and inequality. He delivered the keynote address at the conference yesterday.
We know that gender-based violence doesn't in itself happen in a vacuum. It is the result of complex societal, cultural, and structural factors, some of which are the unequal power dynamics between men and women, cultural norms and practices, unemployment even, and conflict and wars. But we also find, more importantly, patriarchy, this right that men have, that they can dominate women.
3 suspected robbers have been killed and 8 others arrested on Soutpan Road in Shoshanguve, north of Pretoria. Police say the suspects blocked a cash van and robbed it of an undisclosed amount of cash. As they fled the scene, police responded and a shooting ensued. Gauteng police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuhulwi.
During the shootout, 3 of the suspects were killed and 5 plus 3 injured suspects were arrested, while 2 of the members sustained gunshot wounds and were admitted at the hospital for medical treatment. 1 male bystander was also caught in the crossfire and was fatally wounded. The police further seized 4 vehicles which are believed to have been used in the commission of crime, and they further recovered 4 rifles belonging to the suspects.
As today marks 32 years since the assassination of then South African Communist Party General Secretary Chris Hani, the party says it's still not satisfied with the investigation into his murder. Hani was brutally gunned down on the 10th of April 1993. His assassin, Janus Walush, was released on parole in 2022. His parole period ended last year, which led to his deportation to Poland, his country of origin. A commemorative event is set to take place today in the Eastern Cape. The SACP's national organizer, Mhlekwa Nxumalo.
We have never had any truth. We have been going to court for several years, rejecting their application to be released on parole until such time that the Constitutional Court ruled the way in which they ruled. Now, where we are, where the family is until today, we are still not satisfied, and we think that there is a lot that is being hidden. Hence, after Walus was released, went to Poland. His first interview in Poland, when he was asked what was going to happen if similar chance is given, he said if he can be given a second chance, he is going to do it again.
Passengers at the Polokwane International Airport in Limpopo are still experiencing flight delays due to a dysfunctional instrument landing system. The equipment has been out of order for 5 years, forcing flights to be suspended or cancelled during bad weather conditions. Airport CEO Mukhadi Matli says they are working to procure a new system. Passengers are urging the government to intervene and address the problem to prevent further delays.
At the moment I hear that from Airlink side, 9 out of the 16 flights have been cancelled so far this month. So the question is, why is the ILS system not being maintained, and when is it going to be repaired? The MEC is responsible to make sure that infrastructure is maintained.
This delay is really affecting me badly because I had to choose whether to fly or drive, but I chose to fly because I thought I'll get to where I'm going earlier. I have a funeral.
Recapping the top story, the 17th Biennial Conference of the International Association of Women Judges in Cape Town will enter its second day today with deliberations on diversity, equality and inclusion, as well as human trafficking and marginalized communities. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
EFC is live this Thursday. From the wilds of Reunion Island and the ancient lands of Zimbabwe, two raging bulls meet for a heavyweight title clash as Elvis Moyo takes on Anthony Morrell. Plus, Fahis Jacobs and Sibusiso Sovendile fight for bantamweight gold. EFC 122, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.2 FM in Tohoyandou. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 8 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the show. You're listening to The Talking Point. Coming up in this hour, we'll be getting into Municipal Watch. And today we'll take you to the Elias Motsoaledi Municipality. It's out in Limpopo. And we'll be speaking and focusing on the Ntwane village. Before we get into that, your voice notes from the open line.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Morning, Cathy. I would like to take this opportunity to compliment the nurses of Midday Day Hospital for saving the life of my daughter who had difficulty in breathing. I would like to compliment them. They saved my daughter's life. I would like to thank them for their dedication and good work. From Olisa Changacha, Cape Town.
Johnny, I was highlighting the issue of this young three boys cycling from Bakersford in Limpopo to Cape Town. And then I was asking if the Department of Arts, Sports and Culture in Limpopo, are they aware of these young three boys? Why are they not following them? Or why are they not supporting them? It's shown here in Amaskran.
No, Kathy. You know, your comparison of the South African Police Service and the private security. If that everyone in the country was happy that the SAPS is doing their job properly, yes, I would have probably agree with you on that. The reason why people they are using private security, it's simply because of they have no faith. They want an extra protection. They have no faith within the with the SAPS. So no, like I don't agree with you on that. The next thing you'll say that we can't have more private hospital, we can't have more private schools. Like it has to do with the demand. It's a supply and demand. That's how this thing operates, Katie. It's how it operates.
Good morning, Cathy. Fikile Mbalula is quite correct when he says that the EFF and the MK are friends. Yeah, it's part of their plan to try and dismantle the ANC. And he himself, Fikile Mbalula, must realize that some of us are not small children, in that the ANC and the SACP are also friends, and that it's part of their plan to dismantle the EFF and the MK. Thanks, Lionel Witbank.
Morning, Kathy. I want to send a strong warning to Herman Mashaba and his troops. If they still want to be relevant in South Africa's politics next year and 2029, they must play far away from the ANC. The viciousness of the ANC when it comes to smaller parties, man, is unmeasurable. Ask APC of Gudi. They will give you scopa like they've done now with Rising Mzansi. And after that, they swallow you off. They've done so with NFP. UDM has fallen into the same pit. The PAC guy, Nyonso, I don't know if he's still alive. Is it still alive, Wanakith? So Mashaba must play far away. This Mariana meetings is busy with the ANC. It will backfire to him come next year's elections in 2029. Thank you very much. Tapelo Pelusa, Mapsanganyi Village in.
Good morning, Cathy. Chamber from Karecha here. Can someone just tell me what can we do as the citizens to get the ministerial handbook revised in this country? How does it make sense that we, the poorest people, subsidize ministers and their deputies for their electricity and their water, while these people earn above 2 million rands per year? How does that even make any sense at all? Please, how can we influence and make the change?
From Engutu to a Durban, twins born with one dream, Maskandi greatness, millions, fame and family. Will money tear them apart or unite them? Brand new telenovela, Amalanga Wafani, starts April 2025, weekdays at 6:30 on SABC 1.
The Bavarians want to display quality play to emphasize why they are called FC Hollywood. But BVB is courageous to cement a decent spot in the top half.
It's all or nothing. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be.
Catch one of the world's greatest football derbies.
The Klassiker.
FC Bayern München versus Borussia Dortmund. This Saturday, 12 April at 6:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Khomotso Cathy Mohlahlana, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons, right here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, Cathy Mohlahlana.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Well, let's get straight into Municipal Watch for this week. We are in the Elias Motsoaledi municipality, not physically there, but it will certainly be our focus for this morning. Villages of Ntwane in that particular area have been raising concerns around the construction of a local bridge. So what they did in a desperate attempt to try and actually have this bridge up and running effectively. They put money together, crowdfunded, raised money from members of the community. They then also reached out to the municipality and asked for assistance in this regard. They subsequently got involved with the Human Rights Commission and asked for intervention on this matter because they felt they simply were not winning and that their rights were being violated by not being able to have a bridge that they could use to safely cross over. Joining us for this conversation then this morning is Makanyane Matiba, who is the Media Liaison Officer for the Ntwane Community Development Forum. Makanyane, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning to your listeners.
Makanyane, I'm going to ask you just to repeat that. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear, but am I audible?
Wonderful. Yes, you're live on the radio now. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Victor Mavidula is the Provincial Manager for the South African Human Rights Commission in Limpopo. Victor, good morning.
Good morning to you and the listeners, Cathy.
And Matimba Malungana is the Senior Manager for Infrastructure Services at the Elias Mozwaledi Local Municipality. Matimba, good morning.
Morning, Cathy, as well as to SA listeners.
Gideon Matebe is a concerned citizen and also a whistleblower in that community. He has been crucial to some of the organizing around this issue. Gideon, good morning to you.
And the listeners.
Thank you all for coming onto the show and making time to be part of this conversation. Let me begin, perhaps, Gideon, with you as a member of the community and a concerned citizen. The bridge that we are talking about and the concerns by villagers around the construction of this bridge, how is it affecting the lives of residents not having a safe bridge that they can use?
Yes, let me start with thanking everyone who afforded me with this opportunity to tell what was transpired from the first day when I met those elders picking up the stone to the river. I'm not sure if I can carry on, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was on 2019 on my way to church when I jumped on the river, find elderly busy picking up the big stone next to the river. That experience didn't go well with my conscience because I don't think any one of us will allow elders to do such tasks at any cost, irrespective of being your parents or not, especially at the age of 75 to 90 years. So it's where I decided to stop with my journey and start asking them, what are they doing? So it's where I was asking if they did engage with local municipality, and they said so many occasions, but always get negative response from municipality. So the last option is where they ask if municipality can provide them with a truck, if not with a service to load those stones from the mountain to the river. So I asked them again, what was the purpose of what they are doing? Their response was as follows. School children can't pass through when they go to school when the rain is full. The community, when they go to the malls of the various shops around the area, they can't also jump the river when it's raining. Not forgetting to get robbed in the evening because the river is deep enough for thieves to hide and do anything with the victim if that come to the evening times. So after those questions, I decided to consult with the local forum, which is NCDF, by the name of Ndwane Community Development Forum. So I tell them with what I was witness, and lucky enough, those guys get touched as I was, and they did ask me to arrange a meeting with the elders. I remember on that day, all the members of NCDF made sure they all attended meetings. So it's where we started this journey till to date. What was transpired there, it was very painful experience because how can an elder person go from Mabopani to the shop in Lungwane because that village is divided into two. Buying a 50 kg grazing meal. When it reached on the river, they had to stop the wheelbarrow, take off the grazing meal, jump the wheelbarrow first, and jump with the 50 kg grazing meal on that deep river to their home. That is why it made me feel so sad, especially with their age doing all what they was doing. Another thing that prompted me a lot is when I realized that municipality have been engaged so many times. It's whereby it made me start the journey with them till to date. It was very painful experience in my life, ever in my lifetime.
Gideon,
So yes, ma'am.
yeah, thank you for that breakdown and for giving us the history of where this matter started, at least your own involvement too. So you heard the date there, 2019, that Gideon describes as the first time he encountered these elderly people already trying to put bricks together so that it could be safer to cross in this particular area. Makanyane, you as the local community forum of Ndwani village, what have you done to try and have this issue of the bridge resolved?
Okay. Thank you, Cathy, once again for this opportunity. So initially, I'm just going to have to introduce the Ndwani Community Development Forum to you so that, all the listeners are aware to, what type of works that we are intervening on. Initially, we are a community-driven organization whose objectives are to advocating for a constituency, and look at the community development programs enshrined in the IDP document developed in the community within which we serve, as well as promoting the fundamental human rights and ensure that adequate services are accessible to all within the community. And then we are also encouraged, Katie, by the Municipal Act of the Act number 32 of 2000, which is anchored in the bylaw to address the basic service provision, and building of this bridge for pedestrian crossing being one of those provisions. And we echoed the same sentiments in the previous interviews that we have had. So going forward into this matter, Kathy, I don't want to actually delve into what the whistleblower has also indicated. I'm just going to explain as to what the NCDF has done in this particular quagmire. The NCDF still approached the municipality and asked for their intervention. We were still told that the municipality did not have funds for this project. And then we all know that, Kathy, dealing with the local municipality at most is really likened to that problem of dealing with, a reckless parent who has no sense of agency to the well-being and the livelihood of his children. This is the general problem we have, with our local municipalities. But after we were told that, there were no funds, we approached the Sowetan newspaper, invited the paper to come and witness the situation. Indeed, the paper made this ordeal public for this nation to see all what was going down in this village. After the publication, the municipality sent the officials to address the seniors and told them that they must drive the NCDF out of this project so that the municipality can come and assist. But as NCDF, we only came in to ensure that the municipality takes the responsibility and nothing else. So on the 25th of October, after we've noticed that the municipality does not come into play, on the 25th of October 2022, the NCDF lodged a formal complaint to the South African Human Rights Commission against Elias Motsoaledi municipality for failing to apply community safety plan, which actually falls under the act that I've just alluded to. And then it has not been an easy travel, working with this municipality who was so reluctant to actually assist these senior citizens to achieve their objectives. And within the period of 2 months after the matter was reported to the South African Human Rights Commission, the NCDF with the senior citizens, started receiving some attention from the local municipality. The local municipality representatives came over in a meeting and started explaining how they will complete the bridge within a period of 3 months, using their EPWP workers to build the bridge, because indeed they still reiterated that there were no funds available for this project. But Cathy, I can still confirm that not a single EPWP worker was present to this project up until the work was half completed as it is now. And it was a very frustrating experience working with the municipality.
What has made it so hard to work with the municipality, Makanyane? What has been your experience?
Actually, this is something that I'm still going to have to learn from Mr. Matimba, because they must still explain as to what was it so difficult for them to work with the NZF, towards achieving this objective of building a bridge, because we still are in the dark. We don't know as to why they still refuse to work with us.
All right. Thanks for that reflection. Of course, the Human Rights Commission then was also drawn into this matter. Victor, you opened a case to investigate what it is that residents were complaining about. Maybe just briefly, some of the highlights of your involvement.
Thank you very much, Cathy. Indeed, we received a complaint from the residents. What we do normally when we receive complaints, we assess the complaint to check if the complaint fall within the mandate of the commission. That is where we make a determination that indeed we have it does fall within our mandate. All that depends on what the complainant has said in the complaint, because what is important is that the community manage to raise issues that, as the Human Rights Commission, we cannot sit aside and just watch when the people, our community members' rights are being violated. We engage with the municipality. We wrote to the municipality. We started by sending investigators to engage with the community to see where the bridge is, to see where the challenges are. But when we engaged with the municipality, we were told that there is no budget for that particular financial year. The bridge is not part of the IDP. And that is where we started raising issues that this is very serious. Taking into account that you will understand in Limpopo is really, really raining every time. And if we have people crossing the river like that without bridge, they are risking their lives, but they've got nothing. They cannot do anything because of the situation that they are facing. So the municipality agreed that the report that we get, the municipality agreed that they will build the bridge. So what we have been reported, what the information we received from the community, some of the community members and the municipality, was that the municipality delivered the material to the site. They wanted to start with building of the bridge, but they were chased away by the community members. Something that is coming to our attention right now, that it is not correct. But it was also surprising to us that we are receiving the information that municipality officials were chased away, whereas the community needs the bridge. We didn't want to investigate that, but in the latter stage, while we are still engaging, I think we heard that the community members took it upon themselves and started constructing the bridge. But it's not something that we really want to see as the Human Rights Commission. There are people who are paid to provide this kind of services, and they must be held accountable.
Okay.
We must provide the services.
Victor, I'm going to ask you to pause it there. We're going to continue the conversation shortly. As you can hear, it's quite a complex matter, a number of stakeholders involved, but we'll bring you more on this particular story shortly. It's now time for your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Ondilambana, and a very good morning. The South African National Defence Force says it is investigating the matter involving its soldiers who were seen at a community march against gender-based violence in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubayi says while she is not satisfied with the performance of the National Prosecuting Authority, there is not sufficient evidence to question the competence of NPA head Shamila Batohi. And the International Fresh Produce Association South Africa says the imposition of the United States tariffs on exports from SA will cause major setbacks for the industry. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 19 rand 40 to the dollar, 24 rand 96 to the pound, and 21 rand 39 to the euro. Markets in Asia were green across the board at the closing bell. The JSE higher during mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are currently in positive terrain. Gold is trading at $3,112, platinum $934 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $64.08 a barrel.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, racing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward. Just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
EFC is live this Thursday. From the wilds of Reunion Island and the ancient lands of Zimbabwe, two raging bulls meet for a heavyweight title clash as Elvis Moyo takes on Anthony Morrell. Plus, Fahis Jacobs and Sibusiso Sovendile fight for bantamweight gold. EFC 122, live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
You're listening to The Talking Point. We continue focusing on the Ntwane village out in the Elias Mozwaledi local municipality. Residents taking it upon themselves to build their own bridge. This is to provide safe passage over a river there. And we've heard part of the background, at least by way of the community member and also the Community Development Forum. The Human Rights Commission has detailed its own involvement in this particular matter. Victor Mavidula is the provincial manager for the Human Rights Commission in that particular province. So Victor, just so that we're clear on the involvement of the HRC in this matter, once you were satisfied that the municipality had delivered in as far as dropping off material to help with the construction of the bridge, did you let the matter go? Hello, Victor.
Yes, thank you very much, Cathy. I wanted to say we were not satisfied by dropping off the material that we were told. Ours was to see the bridge being constructed and completed. So dropping materials was not going to resolve the problem that our community was facing. But we were just hoping that the bridge will be constructed and they will complete everything. So, and we also happy that now the community have reported back to us that they now took it upon themselves to build the bridge. We were just concerned that they've done it themselves instead of the municipality, but we are just happy that the bridge has been constructed and is done. But we will also request the municipality maybe going forward before we can even close the file. We will have to have the municipality engineers to go and check the bridge if it's safe for our people to use it.
Sure. Yeah, so many different concerns coming up. But let me give Matimba Mohlahlana, who is the Senior Manager for Infrastructure Services at the Elias Motsoaledi local municipality, to come in and share the municipality's perspective. So, Matimba, residents complained for years and years about this lack of the bridge. The HRC agrees in as far as how it was endangering their lives. You then respond how, Matimba?
Yes, thanks very much, Cathy, for the opportunity, and my greetings to your guests as well as to all listeners. Maybe, Cathy, in the interest of time, allow me to categorically state that the bridge was constructed by the municipality. It was constructed absolutely by the municipality using its internal resources, and that in the main was to respond to the much needed service in terms of the access, which the school children were left vulnerable in accessing the high school in both sections as well as the primary school. And also to state facts for the fact that there was a main road. There is a main road leading to Tabakubedu, which is primarily used by the residents to gain access. However, the bridge in question, in terms of its location, it is serving as a bypass. So it's purely a secondary solution that the municipality came into that space to devise and ensure that we render the services in a sustainable manner as required for the purpose. And furthermore, you will again appreciate that as a municipality we are dealing with a lot of competing needs. We are inundated with a high backlog of basic services in as far as the roads, in as far as stormwater, and we are responsible to respond to over 30 wards across the municipality. So that is the type of the amount of weight in terms of workload that we are experienced to respond. And as a rural municipality with low revenue base, of course, grant-light municipality, we needed to come up with a possible solution to ensure that we service the community. And if we will hear all the speakers, they made mention of budgets that was not available for the cause. And as far as what we did is we were able to engage the community closely and devise an interim measure wherein it was resolved that the viable way which will be cost effective will be to mobilize all our resources, our yellow plant machineries, our excavators, and our technical team with skills to come and put together.
Matimba, if you're saying that the municipality has constructed the bridge, why would members of the community say that they haven't seen a single worker, EWPD worker from the municipality come there? Why would there be this allegation that the municipality brought in these materials and left them there for residents to figure it out?
Yeah, to come to that, Cathy, we also shared some pictures with ourselves as a portfolio of evidence on how the bridge was constructed. And if you can look at those pictures, it is a combination of workforce, those that are employed on a full-time basis by the municipality as employees and staff of the municipality, and those that voluntarily gave their skills from locals, as it's encouraged that as and when there is a bridge within their vicinity, they have to be that high level of community involvement, as enshrined from the Constitution, Chapter 7 of 152, which outlines the objectives of local government, where it requires that we involve the community in matters that affect the local government. So in that manner, we're able to
So effectively, you're saying that you had municipal workers, and then you also had volunteers from the community.
Absolutely.
Who was directing the project? Because there are now concerns about the safety of the structure that has been put up. And you also heard the Human Rights Commission saying that they still need a report from you around the engineers that were used to, again, just make sure that the structure is safe.
Thanks for that, Chelsea. The project, like I indicated, it's a municipal internal project, which in the main was constructed in-house, spearheaded by infrastructure development as a directorate with capable and skilled engineers, like one of them, which is myself, a seasonal engineer with almost 2 decades of experience in civil engineering, as well as other colleagues, professional engineers in our field of engineering and built environment. So those are the technical skills that was invested for this initiative to be finally completed. And that report, which they request, Cathy, we can make that report available, and we can even communicate across, just to clear all these unfounded, baseless, and untrue information that the structural integrity of the bridge, where we are, we can absolutely indicate that it's structurally intact. It will spend the purpose it requires in terms of the flood. So we have come up with a solution that also looked into the issue of addressing the life-threatening occasional issues that would come about if we were not to quickly move into that space in terms of implementing this intervention.
Makanyane, there's obviously a very different perspective from yourselves as members of the community and the municipality around how this process has played out, rather, and the extent to which the municipality has gotten involved. What do you have to say to Mr. Matimba? How do you respond to what he's saying? Because it completely contradicts what you have said.
Okay, let me correct one notion that was actually communicated to South African Human Rights Commission, because the South African Human Rights Commission tells you that they said the bridge did not form part of the IDP, but I can confirm to you that the very same bridge in question, the Municipal 2017-2018 IDP document reflected a need for this bridge. And we have these documents that we can share with you, Cathy, at the later stage. And secondly, it is very sad that Mr. Matimba refers to this bridge as a secondary solution. It is very sad because the very same bridge, actually came into being as a primary solution for the school-going children. Because if there was no bridge, we could have been, in a situation where, a child, would have drowned, this is the bridge that is used by the children who are going to school, to and fro. And then, yes, Cathy, after the matter was reported to South African Human Rights Commission, the municipality came over and they went to this other village called Marapo. They even collected the culverts used, the bridge culverts used for the bridge in Marapong, that had actually collapsed some 2 years ago. So they actually, took those remainings of the culverts and brought them to the area where the bridge was needed. Hence, we are still questioning the safety of this bridge. So I believe that this is something that South African Human Rights Commission would definitely assist us all, because we even invited them to come and do the inspection in Logo, and we are still waiting for them to come and do the inspection.
Victor, have you gone on site to do that inspection?
Not yet, but we did receive an invitation from the community members, and we are intending to go there just to check the bridge. But it must be noted that when we come to see the bridge, we are not coming to make a determination whether the bridge is safe or not, but we are happy that the municipality have undertaken to provide us with the assurance that the bridge is safe. Because if there is this contradiction that as to who constructed the bridge, if the municipality is taking responsibility that they are the ones who constructed the bridge, I think we can just get the assurance. But if it's the community again, we will need the municipality also to intervene and work with the community members, assess the bridge. If there is any other upgrade or upgrade that is needed, the municipality must also get in to do that. But because they are saying that they are the ones who constructed the bridge, it means that we are a bit relieved, but we need to be given assurance officially that no, the bridge is safe.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Yeah, I'll give you a chance to come in just shortly.
TS Galaxy Queens have a special game plan to display a stellar performance to collect maximum points in their own backyard. However, Royal AM want to demonstrate their royalty with a win away from home. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Don't miss out on TS Galaxy Queens versus Royal AM Ladies the Saturday 12th April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
All right, we're continuing with the story out in Elias Motsoaledi Municipality. Residents taking it upon themselves, right, to start the process of building a bridge. And we've now heard that ultimately the municipality intervened and they now take responsibility for the bridge that has been constructed. Matimba Malungana is with the Elias Motsoaledi Municipality. He's manager for infrastructure services there. Victor Mavidula is with the Human Rights Commission. Gideon Matebe is a citizen that took this matter into his own hands and raised awareness around it. And Makanyane Matiba is with the local community development forum, which is the Ntwani Community Development Forum. So, Makanyane, I guess then the good thing is the fact that there is finally a bridge that residents can point to, even though you still have to resolve questions around whether or not you believe that that bridge is safe.
Okay, Cathy, thanks. we need to appreciate the fact that it was through the intervention of the South African Human Rights Commission for the municipality to come and do what they've done now. However, the bridge is not yet complete, Cathy. There is no maximum capacity signage erected. As we speak right now, heavy trucks, are using that pathway, as they cross to the other village. We don't know, the strength of that bridge. As I'm saying, the culverts used for this bridge, were actually collected from a bridge which collapsed some few years ago. So.
I think those are very legitimate concerns. Matimba, you say that the bridge has been completed. Makanyani says that there's no way it can be described as being complete.
There are no even sidewalls, Cathy. The bridge has no sidewalls. The manner in which the bridge, has been erected, once the river flows, it will actually, flow, into the other side. When the kids are passing through, those kids will actually be gone.
Matimba?
Yeah, maybe let me indicate that, like I indicated, that the bridge, it's in a sense a low-level bridge which is meant for pedestrians. But how it was constructed, in terms of engineering, the design for the worst case scenario, it's even used by trucks and vehicles, which I would indicate now that we are producing such loads. And we will ensure that in terms of our fine finishings, which are part of our snag list item, we will be able to erect signboards. But also to acknowledge, Cathy, that with signboards, as and when you erect them, there are always kids moving around. They are subject to vandalism, which will then take it upon ourselves that from time to time we continuously monitor that those signboards.
And the fact that this bridge doesn't have walls on the sides, and the concern that if it floods again, it's back to square one for residents?
Yeah, in that regard, there is no way that the bridge will flood. We've put together gabion box stones with gabion stones strictly sourced from commercial, not any local stones which can be an issue of quality in itself. We commercially procured the stones, gabion stones, and ensure that we are able to use them as erosion protection or erosion prevention. So in terms of flooding, it will stand where we are, but from time to time we'll continuously monitor. But like I'm indicating, for the purpose of the kids to get access to the high school, Nala High School, which is on the other side of Tabakumedi, it definitely serve that purpose, and that's where we are. We are confident that we have provided a solution that not only assisted the community but also saved municipality millions, over 2.5 million, if we were to really outsource this work. The value of the work would have costed the municipality over 2.5 million. So those are the savings which we are required as local government to be cost effective and ensure
Did you use implements and material from a bridge that had collapsed?
Yeah, thanks. We in that regard, they were the culverts, the portal culverts that we used were used on another bridge. They were excess materials, so we took them from there. They are in good condition. We have assessed them, and like I indicated, they are SABS approved, which is required by law to utilize materials that have passed the quality checks and standards. So we are confident that they will serve the purpose and for the structurally designed period.
Gideon, have you seen this bridge?
Again,
Gideon, have you seen
yes,
this bridge?
ma'am, I'm always there.
What,
As I'm
what,
talking to you, Kathy, I'm on site.
from your layman's view, is it done as the municipality saying it's safe? It can withstand the next storm that hits the area.
Let me just come in and be faithful and honest to women. Sometimes it's easy for one to talk with a microphone and tell people what he thinks was done. Unfortunately, there's nothing good that you can talk about the bridge. Let me be honest with you. All those things that have been used there was from another bridge that was being collapsed. Then they took those things and bring them on that bridge just to make it, just to make those others build on top of those things. There is nothing that has been seen by those engineers or whoever. That guy just says something just to pass and let us go. There's nothing good on that bridge. It's risky. Even if the legislators can push another one inside, they can go and throw in there. I'm telling you. It's really it's where always the talk is cheap. It's what is happening on that bridge. It's a risky, to be honest with you. There's nothing good at all.
Okay, so I think then what is needed here, number one, is for the human rights
community. We can send you
community.
pictures as well if you want us to do that.
Yes,
It's
please
risky.
do.
Yes.
And I do think also that we're going to maybe also have to reach out to private stakeholders who, you know,
We'll highly appreciate it.
of people that we've got a community of listeners who are, you know, very committed to the show and very committed to their communities, that they need to come out there and do an actual inspection of this bridge. It seems to me to be the only practical way forward in as far as this conversation is concerned, because you just can't have such divergent views on one thing. The municipality is adamant that it is structurally safe. Residents are saying something completely different. So we'll have to see how we're able to get an independent view. Victor, do you not think that as the Human Rights Commission, you also have a responsibility to commission an independent report on the status of that bridge, given the fact that you've been involved in this process from the get-go?
Thank you, Kathy. What we do normally when we have disputes like this, you will understand our view, and I think this is very strong. When the municipality has indicated to us that the structure is safe, if there is no doubt or there is no disputing information or contradicting information, we take that as it is. But now we are having two views from from the community and the municipality. What I'm thinking that we'll do, let us arrange maybe first before we can go to independent engineers. We will arrange with the municipality and the community. Let us visit the bridge together, and then we'll have a sense, because since the bridge has been completed, we have not yet visited the bridge, but we are planning to visit the bridge. Let us go there together, do inspection, and if they are concerned that it can be addressed, the municipality will be shown, the municipality will be alerted of those concerns and all those things. But if we still have disputes and we are not certain, that is where we can go out. We know that there are many companies that work with the Human Rights Commission just to assist us, because we will need experts to make that determination whether the bridge is safe or not. But let us follow up on this, because now we are aware as the Human Rights Commission that they are saying that the bridge is not safe. So we cannot ignore that information, but let us work together to find a solution.
Yeah, look, one would think that the experts would have to be there as part of that visit too. Otherwise, you've got to have some form of expert opinion and not just rely on what the municipality is saying, because they, of course, will say that all is intact because this is work that they have produced. So I think it's crucial in this instance to have an alternative view on the status of that bridge. Okay, we're going to leave it here with this particular story for today, but we will bring a follow-up on the story in as far as the status then of that bridge is concerned. like I said, it will be very important to get the view of an experienced third party where this bridge is concerned. All right, time for your latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, Soweto Spaza shop closed for alleged poisoned snacks, and IFPA concerned over U.S. tariffs on fresh produce. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. The City of Johannesburg's Environmental Health Department says it has closed the spaza shop suspected of selling alleged poisoned snacks to an 8-year-old boy in Soweto. The boy from Mapetla Township is currently in the intensive care unit at Krisani Baragwanath Hospital. Police have since taken a sample of the empty packet of snacks that the child consumed. Monique Lewis reports.
The boy's family told the environmental inspectors that he bought a maize snack called Stylos and a Danone drink from the said spaza shop on Friday last week. He shared this with his 3 siblings at home. However, at 1 a.m. on Saturday, he started vomiting, complaining of stomach pains and lost mobility. Authorities are awaiting laboratory results from the empty packet of snacks handed over for testing. Monique Lewis, SABC News.
The South African National Defence Force says it is investigating the matter involving its soldiers who were seen at a community march against gender-based violence in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. This has caused widespread confusion across the country, with some questioning whether the soldiers were deployed to monitor the protest. The SANDF has clarified that the members were not deployed to monitor the situation, but had been assigned to border safeguarding duties in the area. Spirit Lamini is the head of communication at the Defence Department.
We've requested our OC, who's the officer commanding of those troops and everybody in the Eastern Cape, and the GOC, who's the general officer commanding, who is responsible for all our deployments, including external and internal, to look into the matter quite seriously, because we view it in a very serious light, and to give us a report as soon as possible as to what transpired for our members to end up finding themselves in that area. And we want that to be clearly put to the Chief of the Defence Force, which will then be reported to the Minister, and decisions will be made.
Justice Minister Mamluko Kubayi says while she is not satisfied with the performance of the National Prosecuting Authority, there is not sufficient evidence to question the competence of NPA head Shamila Batohi. This comes amid criticism of a number of high-profile court losses, including the Umutoso rape and human trafficking case. Kubayi spoke to SABC News on the sidelines of the 17th Biennial Conference of the International Association of Women Judges in Cape Town.
There are areas of improvement that we need to see. So you must differentiate. I say to you, I respond by saying, in the issue of declaring her competent or incompetent, I don't think there's sufficient evidence to say you can hold her individually accountable. But I'm saying overall system, there are weaknesses that we must improve.
A 26-year-old Fumanekile Linkone has been sentenced to 17 years imprisonment by the Brantford Regional Court for the rape of a 13-year-old girl. During the trial, the magistrate heard that following the incident, the mother of the victim had noticed funny movements from her daughter and questioned her. The victim informed her about the rape. The victim was taken for medical examination, leading to the arrest of the rapist. The International Fresh Produce Association South Africa says the imposition of the United States tariffs on exports from SA will cause major setbacks for the industry. U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a 31% tariff on South Africa, which came into effect yesterday. Country manager for IFPS SA, Jane Sturdom, says the tariff will cause a ripple effect in the supply chain, which could see many South Africans in the industry losing their jobs.
I think as South Africans we were a bit caught off guard and taken by surprise. Previously, under the AGOA agreement, we enjoyed a zero tariff. So the news that we were by a 30% tariff was obviously devastating to our association and to our members. These tariffs serve as a barrier to trade and obviously pose challenges to South Africa's fresh produce export industry, and obviously that spirals down to the livelihoods of the people involved in it. The timing of the tariffs has also come at a very bad time for our citrus growers in particular.
Recapping the top story, the City of Johannesburg's Environmental Health Department says it has closed the spaza shop suspected of selling alleged poison snacks to an 8-year-old boy in Soweto. I am Mondulambana for SFM News Headlines at 11:30.
Last season's finalists, Basandawana, want to reach another final, but Amakosi believe their fans deserve a special ticket to the final.
This is the Nedbank Cup semi-final contest. Yona.
Catch Mamelodi Sundowns versus Kaizer Chiefs on Sunday, 13 April, live streaming on SABC Plus and SABC One at 5:30 p.m. Then on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, Cathy, and your guest and your listeners. Cathy, sorry to say this, but it's so sad that when you look at a black-led municipality, there will always be a problem of accountability. There will always be a problem of delay. There will always be a problem with the untrusty leadership because people who are there to do the job, it's either they will lie about the process of building an infrastructure or they are just afraid to tell the people the truth about the budget or the treasure that they don't have. They just make those empty promises which will make them lose their jobs in future. Brian Mabai from Proteagland. Thanks for the question.
Hi, Cathy. It is absolutely deplorable that, first of all, it had to take Victor to identify that there was such a serious issue in the community where the elderly and other vulnerable members of the community could not cross a river due to lack of a bridge. How can that, how can you manage infrastructure for a community and not be aware in a village that there's an issue like that? It's shocking. Where is consequence management for this? And I think just to close, I think the writing is on the wall. People cannot keep on undermining communities and explaining long stories about processes, etc. You need to know that South Africans have spoken in the previous elections and they will continue to do so until you listen.
Hi, Katie. It's Mashilo here in Tuane, Pawane area. You know, I'm listening the what you call the conversation, but the representative of the municipality is economic with truth. If he can tell you, have they had a scope of work and have they commissioned the bridge so that the safety standards were adhered to? Maybe if you can ask whether they are going to issue the certificate of compliance, I think the community will be satisfied or something. And also the intervention from the president's program of building the bridge nationwide, that was presented during the January 8th statement. Maybe National should come to party to rescue the situation. Thanks.
Morning, Sisika. This thing of councillors who stay outside of their constituency is a problem. We've got a problem then in Ward 87, Johannesburg. I've tried to get hold of that councillor. I send him WhatsApp, he doesn't respond. I try to call his answering machine. So I don't know what to do now. Ward 87, that encompasses Brixton there. We've got a serious problem there. So I don't know if you can assist and try to get hold of him, Norman from Brixton.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.2 FM in Zanin. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, you're listening to The Talking Point, 12 after 11 o'clock. Thanks for tuning into the third and final hour of the show. All of the concerns that you have raised around Municipal Watch, I think they're all very legitimate. Like I said, it's now really about coming down to get an official assessment of the state of that bridge, and then we're able to at least solidly take the conversation forward, because after all the community has had to do to make sure that that bridge is standing in the first place, it would be an even greater indictment that it is constructed but remains unsafe, at least for use. It would completely defeat the purpose. So thanks for all of that input, and we are taking it into consideration. All right, the final hour of the show, of course, we are still very much in the middle of this impasse. It's described as an impasse over the budget, but of course has also trickled over into being an impasse within the government of national unity. We still don't know which way things will go in as far as this GNU is concerned. Some reports of DA ministers that were already packing, their belongings and holding farewell meetings with staff, or at least saying goodbye to some of their staff members. On the other end, however, is an indication of at least officially from the DA, that they're staying put for now. There will be no rash decisions. There will be no quick moves to exit the GNU, but it is about consultations and making sure that the ANC understands the concept of power sharing. That is the position of the DA. Of course, in the ANC, you also have very split views. Some believe that the DA cannot be part of a budget that they did not support and therefore need to be kicked out of the GNU. Others are worried about what will the implications of not having the DA as part of the GNU be, particularly on the economy. So there are many different ways in which we can take this conversation. I was particularly struck by a piece penned by Professor J.J. Tabane, who is the editor of the African Leadership magazine and professor of media studies at the University of Botswana. And he, of course, was exploring the relationship between the government of national unity and business. Professor Tabane, good morning to you. Thank you for agreeing to come onto the show today.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you can hear me clearly.
The line isn't great, but I think we'll be able to push through. By the way, just as we get ready to have this conversation, I see that there has been pushback to the piece that you released. Somebody that you, of course, would know very well, Sipho Ngwema, has written a response to your piece around the role of business and, in particular, your use of capital as a synonym for business. But we'll get into that shortly. I just want you to speak briefly around your own views and observations, because it is what we as South Africans have been observing. Most highlighted perhaps by the weekend when we had that statement from Business Unity South Africa around its support for a government of national unity. The president, of course, one feeling that he was quite touched by what business had to say. And, he dug in his heels and said business must stay in its place. And remember, it is not elected by the people of South Africa, and therefore, yes, can have a say, but certainly not to the extent of directing what must happen in government.
Absolutely, Cathy. I hope you can hear me better now.
Much better.
So I was arguing a simple thing. Over the weekend, President Ramaphosa, as they say in the Shakespearean literature, was protesting too much, right, about, that business cannot tell them what to do, etc. The reality is business has been very involved in the internal politics of the ANC and the internal politics of government for years and years on end. You would remember as far back as 2007, the Communist Party came out with a paper where they were talking about corporate capture. Before the days of state capture were with us, they were talking about corporate capture, where they were complaining or bemoaning the fact that even if you look at government policy, from gear to what we now have now, I'm not sure just it is muted or evolved so much. You no longer know what is government policy on economics, right? But at the heart of it was that the ANC was trapped in trying to be more business friendly than they should be. In other words, creating a dichotomy between being business friendly and being true to their transformation agenda of changing things in this country. This country is sitting on a couple of time bombs. Unemployment is out of control, poverty out of control, inequality the worst in the world, right? And so you cannot, in a sense, simply carry on that status quo and expect that the people who are most affected must just fold their arms, right? And that was the mistake that was made in putting together the government of national unity, because that issue of transformation was not addressed, as far as I'm concerned, deeply enough. That's why the disagreements in the GNU are exactly about the transformation agenda. They don't want the NHI, they don't want the Bella Act, they don't want the Expropriation Act. All the things that are pointing towards changing the status quo in as far as these things that I call time bombs are concerned. So now coming back to today, where they are now having to decide whether or not they must keep the GNU business, it's always been clear that the DA's involvement in the GNU, in a sense, creates some kind of peace in the marketplace. And so they don't have to worry about radical policies that are going to rattle the market. And that's really where we're sitting. And I'm arguing that because of the ANC's tendency to err more on the side of business than err on the side of people, and I put it as bluntly as that, I see my friend Sipo who might say, no, but business are also the people. Yes, there are also the people, but I'm just analyzing their agenda. The agenda is not to worry too much about poverty and unemployment and what in the same way that the ANC in its stated policies want to do that. That's why they're fighting over those three pieces of legislation. I'm concluding that I think, and I suspect highly, that all we're seeing now is just a PR exercise. At the end, the GNU will stay in place.
The argument that you make, Prof., particularly around the president's protestation in as far as business is concerned, you believe that that is a mere deflection from what could well be happening behind the scenes, and that effectively you're saying don't be fooled by what the president has said, because behind closed doors, business has much more of a say than what will perhaps be acknowledged in public. Why do you say that, and what do you base those statements on?
Yeah, absolutely. The president, is trying to fool the public. This is a man who was given R500 million rand by a business. He's not going to dismiss them. In fact, if he was honest enough, he would have said, yes, we must listen to business. Yes, we must listen to civil society. We must listen to everybody, right? And in fact, the business who's going to invest is the one who's been driving the investment route and investment agenda. It need to be taken seriously, right? When we are making these decisions. But he talks about the opposite of what is happening. He say they can't tell us what to do and so on. What must we believe? He's still to tell us who's funded him. He's refused. He's gone to court to say they must stop the bank accounts to be known, etc. So it's very difficult for me to believe his protest that no, business cannot tell us what to do. We know that, unfortunately, right, as that saying goes, he who pays the piper calls the tune. It's not something that you can just dismiss. And so for me, it's a PR thing that says, because I'm addressing my branch in Shawela, I must say the people matter more than business. It's not necessary to lie to us openly. You can simply say we have to take into account stakeholders like business. Yes, indeed, they wrote to us. Yes, indeed, we will take into account their views. There's nothing wrong in saying that. Instead of fooling the public into believing that what business is saying is not important. It's actually important, and we have a track record to show that of how the ANC has always made decisions that lean more towards business more than leaning away from it.
One of the concerns that has been raised, and it's a concern I think similar to what you've shared, raised by the former Statistician General Cathy Mohlahlana, who he too, very concerned about the full role and the full involvement in business in as far as directing or influencing part of what we're seeing happen behind the scenes. It is somewhat of a strange situation that we find ourselves in as a country right now, because we see how the rand is trading. Just this morning, it was at 1940. It's been hovering along those levels for the past week and a half or so. Market commentators will say that this is as a result of the GNU. The markets are waiting to see what is going to happen with the GNU before we see whether the rand either goes up or it comes down. The reason why I say that it is a very strange position to be in, because there are different questions that arise, and as somebody who has conversations with politicians and is aware of what is happening behind the scenes, perhaps more than the ordinary man on the street, to what extent are we to actually believe business has a say over this GNU? I mean, how much of muscle are they able to wield here?
Look, I was saying I'm not holding my breath that the ANC will defy business, because they have not proved that they can do that. Right? Some of the transformation policies, for example, BEE, etc., which can be summarized as having failed over the years. The question is, why did they fail? They didn't fail because they are bad policies. They failed because they were terribly implemented. They failed because there was nobody who was overseeing their implementation. They failed because business, who holds the economic strings, have never been held to account in as far as implementing what is really simple transformative policies. If you divide it up, you are talking about being concerned about who owns the business. So it's not owned by white people only, it's owned by all South Africans. Who gets hired in these companies? All South Africans. Who gets procured from? Who gets skilled? Who gets invested in their communities? All those things are straightforward policies. It's either you want to implement them or you don't like it. Now, business has proved that they pushed back on transformation policies. I'll just give quickly an example on employment equity. As a report that was released about 2 years ago by the Department of Labor, almost a replica of a report released by KPMG about 10 years ago, right? That bemoaned the failure of business to implement affirmative action policies. But on the other extreme of resistance, for example, they're saying 70% of new appointments and new promotions over the last while have been to white people, 70%. Right? If you look at the ownership of the JSE, that tells you a story about how tiny percentage of that JSE is owned by ordinary South Africans or even black South Africans. Right? So if you look at all of that, you are clear that business, with all what it pronounces as being pro-transformation and so on, the reality or the facts point to a different direction altogether. Now, if you come to the JNU, what muscle they'll have? They have a muscle because nobody has held them to account. Nobody has held them to account. In the past, there used to be something called Employment Equity Commission that used to release a report every year and get companies to come and account why their employment equity numbers look bad. When last did you hear anybody talk about that? There's BE Commission now. It's struggling to hold companies accountable. If anything, companies are continuing to front. The BE Commission is receiving numerous complaints about fronting of business instead of a genuine compliance to black economic empowerment. So, in summary, the business has a muscle. I doubt that they won't exercise this muscle now, right? And then finally, on this thing of the market, let's assume that the ANC decides to go into a partnership, let's say with the EFF or a consortment of parties that are not the DA. Why do you think people who with businesses in South Africa will simply pack their bags and go? Like they do in all other countries, they will have to look at how they navigate the new economic system that is brought on board by a new government. This is apart from the fact that the EFF is a minority. Even if you brought it into government, they won't dictate the entire policy. They still have to persuade all the other parties. And so I find it some kind of a swart gevaar to say, if the EFF comes here, things are going to be necessarily bad. Because you have to come up with some kind of a consensus government if you have 9%, if you have 20% instead of 51%.
When we look at just the state of delivery, different departments across the country, business, of course, even the trust barometer indexes that are run by the likes of your Edelman Trust show that South Africans trust business more than they trust politicians, more than they even trust the media, right? So there is a level of efficiency that people see coming out of business than they see perhaps in other sectors of society. Why is it a bad thing? Why do you think it's a bad thing that the ANC or even the government of national unity is likely to err more or to defect more to what the leaning of business might be than to that of the people?
Let me answer it this way. We probably have one of the best business structures in our country, or even, let me say, we've got a lot of competent people in our business, etc. Our business sector is trusted, not just here, but around the world. They are commended for a great banking system. They are commended for great auditing system, etc., etc. Right? So you've got a business that has the competency to assist this economy. But in the context of an economy that's growing at 0%, you need to ask yourself, where is the role, right, the effective role of that business? In other words, if you were to assess their input in the economy, and then you look at the fact that the economy has grown at 0% over the last 10 years, then you've got to ask yourself questions whether or not that trust in them is misplaced or not. There's been lots of reports that you can go and check for yourself when you look at annual reports of companies where they are sitting on cash. They're not investing as much as they should because, if you invest in a factory and so on, if you need to go abroad, you can't take your factory with you. Right? It's not like if you are sitting with cash, you can transfer it to America or wherever you want to run away to. So there is an element where we don't hold business to account enough. We're just looking on the surface that, these are good guys. That's why every time a DA minister wants to solve something, so let's privatize CETA, let's privatize the Home Affairs, let's privatize everything, because there is this tendency not to hold business to account on what may matter to the majority of South Africans. Right?
Okay.
So I'm sorry, it's not a bad thing per se, but the facts say that with all the competency business has, we are still sitting in an economy that is growing at 0%. So we obviously need a better collaboration between government and business. That's okay, but they are not elected, so they cannot dictate the overall agenda. The ANC and whoever else is elected must determine a new agenda that would push back unemployment, push back inequality, push back poverty.
Okay, Prof, I'm going to ask you to pause it there. We're going to continue the conversation shortly. I see some of you already getting in touch. You want to respond. I'll give you an opportunity to do that shortly.
Thank you, Cathy. In the news headlines, the City of Johannesburg's Environmental Health Department says it has closed the spaza shop suspected of selling alleged poisoned snacks to an 8-year-old boy in Soweto. Some Limpopo residents have appealed for swift action to eradicate the scourge of rape of minors, and the South African National Defence Force says it is investigating the matter involving its soldiers who were seen at a community march against gender-based violence in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. Our guest this hour, Professor J.J. Tabane, editor of the African Leadership magazine, Professor of Media Studies at the University of Botswana. We're unpacking a piece that he's recently penned around the relationship between the government of national unity and business, and basically cautioning us and asking and saying why we should all be concerned about what we are seeing happen. Butana, you're calling us from Rosebank. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister, and good morning to your guest. You know, the coalition government, which is the arrangement between the ANC and the National Party, is a project of the business. They initiated that from the beginning. They were the first person to tell us that the only coalition that will work better for them, is between the ANC and the National Party. And the President Ramaphosa is intellectually dishonest person. You cannot rely on it. He's deceiving. That statement of him is deceiving. He's not different, by the way, on his behavior with these business people. They divert, they discredit, and, you know, they operate like I don't know, like in the olden days of apartheid, Stratcom operatives. That's the word I was looking for. They're deceiving us. The only arrangement that is going to work for them is this one that they want. That is why they write letter to ANC and DA. They must sort themselves and work.
Butana, what reasons do you think the ANC or even the president would have to be dishonest about this position, or to not fully own up to the extent and the role to which in a business is influencing some of these decisions?
He wants to fool the voters like they fooled them for 30 years. Want to fool them. The unemployment case is a disaster. The unemployment in this country is a disaster. The economy is a disaster. It is an avalanche, catastrophic collapse of services. The reason is to fool us.
All right, Butana, let's leave it there. Tembi in Cape Town, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome, Tembi.
Thank you. I just wanted to give my situation. I used to actually be an ANC voter, but lately I vote DA because I'm a single mom. I work, I pay taxes, and I want to see my taxes being used properly and efficiently to move the country forward. And I don't see the ANC doing that. The ANC squander our money that we work very hard for. They are very inefficient. And where they see pockets of excellence, They want, instead of using that as a benchmark and raising the standards of everything else around us to that excellence, they want to destroy. Where they cannot stand to see things that work properly, that are efficient, that they will come in and they want to destroy. And that is what they want to do now. They complain that the DA ministers are showing them up in government. Yes, because they are performing. If they want people to give them praise, they must also perform. And Cathy, where people are performing or where departments are working efficiently, it actually saves us money. The government will always make these promises to people to say we want to do this for the poor, we want to do that for the poor. Where are they getting their money from? They're getting the money from us, the taxpayer, who is so much squeezed. I mean, we must look forward to a VAT increase. Where is that going to come from? I mean, as black people, we have the black tax. We have to look after our families at home. We must pay tax. We must look after the indigent in the nation. It's a lot.
So, Thembi, are you bothered at all by this insinuation around business and the extent to which it may actually be influencing things behind the scenes?
There is an element of that. And, there is an element of that. I have to be honest. But business, there is business that looks like me, that creates employment, that is the engine of the economy. So the color of business is also changing. But where they have like sinister agendas, we need to be mindful of that. In a weird way, the coalition that I personally, as a person, would love to see, that I, as a person, think would work, is the DA and the EFF. Because I like the policies of the EFF, and I like some of the policies of the DA and some of its efficiencies. And if those two leaders, if those two egos could just, for the sake of the country, just talk to each other, because I think they both have the best interests of the country at heart. More EFF than DA, but I love them for the way they are efficient, the way they just make things work, because that also, it saves the tax, it saves the economy money. There's no waste.
Okay. Thembi out in Cape Town, yeah. We're unlikely to see EFF, Julius Malema and Helen Zille marriage again anytime soon. But it is politics, so you can never really fully write everything off. Prof, I want to come to the point that Butana had raised in his call around the dishonesty. And I want to ask you the question around politically, what really stands to be lost if there's an acknowledgement in as far as the role of business and the extent to which business influences affairs? Because he's right in saying that before we had the GNU, there was a very clear message from business that this is the kind of government that it would support.
No, absolutely, Cathy. I think obviously, in the South Africa, we're always polite about saying that politicians are lying to us. But as you know, I'm not that polite. The reality is, right, it doesn't sound ANC to actually acknowledge that business is at the center of decision making. Right? You have to sound a little more radical if you're an ANC president or an ANC leader, not to be seen to be controlled by business. That is the sound bite that you can, do so that it appears somewhere, because the media is going to take 30 seconds of your sound bite. But the reality of the full story is that the ANC is beholden to business. Individuals within the ANC are beholden to business. I can't give you R500 billion for you to come and tell me that my view is just like any other person who gave me R2. Right. So if we just look at it logically, the business did not spend money on ANC campaigns, money on making Ramaphosa the president, so that he can come and tell them their views don't matter. or their views matter little, or their views matter like everybody else's.
But surely, Prof, he's just an individual, right? He's not the sum total of the party. There's the top 6, there's the NWC, and all of those voices must matter.
Must I take you through the top 6 or the top 7 now, right? You've got a chairperson who's entangled with Bosasa and so on, and we know the stories in the state capture. It's not my view. You've got the deputy Secretary General who was also entangled. You've got a Secretary General who's a public protector found having entangled. So if you just take them one by one, you'll realize that Ramaphosa is only one, yes, but all of them somehow have an entanglement with business that if explored further, you will see why the ANC, as they are sitting together, they can ignore business, or they can try and say their voice matters just like that of COSATU. I mean, the ANC was happy to defy its alliance partners to form the GNU. If they went to an alliance meeting, they would be outvoted about forming the GNU, actually. But they decided to go with what would please capital better, what will please the market, instead of what will please its long-standing partners partners like SACP, who to this day are still lamenting the fact that you can't go into a partnership with a DA that is pronounced, not just pronounced, but are in court fighting your transformation policies, right? So I think that's why you have that, if you like, a little bit of dishonesty, because they themselves know in their heart of hearts, right, that where they belong is more to the left than to the right, and they should have made the left-leaning partnerships work for the people, even if they may take short-term pain of the markets trying to rebel. At the end, those markets will stabilize once they realize that those policies are actually going to ensure that later on you don't have an Arab Spring that would make all that kingdom collapse.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, Prof, let me pause you there. Mike in Newlands, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning, Prof. A big fan, always enjoy your show. I want to just, I think this might help us all understand where we are. If I could quote the late Chris Hani, probably one of the biggest losses to our country. And he said, and you'll be familiar with this, he said he was always scared that the liberators would become elitists. They'd build massive houses and mansions, drive Mercedes-Benzes and gather wealth. Well, I think that sums up exactly what has happened with the ANC today. None of that can be lied, and the great Chris Hani, I think, would be just, well, he certainly wouldn't be around the ANC in any way whatsoever. My answer, or my question, Prof, is this. We can talk about transformation, stock markets, black empowerment, what. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, nothing exceeds the dignity of work. And we need to get dignity of work. People need to be able to provide. Then we can have the luxury of saying whether we think there's too many people of that skin color in this job or in that cricket team or soccer team. We need to allow the economy to open up. We need to get rid of, we don't need expropriation or compensation. We had it. Why did we bring it back and upset the market and upset the world? We've got unemployment going to soon exceed 50%. I think it does in one province already, Prof. I can tell you now that people can go to business. They can open factories. We can beat the Chinese in many, many products. But our government and the laws of this country will not allow us to do that because the minimum wages are too high for us to be competitive against most of the world. So my question is this, Professor, should we not actually just start again? We've had 30 years of complete and utter failure. Nothing the ANC has done. In fact, they have destroyed everything. The harbours, the airports, the SAA, it's gone. Let's start again, and let's let people have the dignity of work. And by doing that, we open up the market. Okay. Let me start a business with 10 guys who've got no work, no hope, no future, and let me employ them for what I can afford to pay them and what they are happy to receive. Thank you, Cathy.
Mike, that's one view. Mike in Newlands, Prof?
He's 100% right, and that's what the voters wanted to do. The voters voted the ANC out of power. They gave him 40%, and then the ANC found a way to get back into power and have 75% of the cabinet, even though they only have 40% of the vote. So until the voters are more decisive, and I'm not sure if they are at, the ANC is at 39%, then the voters must vote in such a way that they can't trick the system and come back into power. Because you vote one way to say ANC are out. In fact, this means that 60% of the country didn't vote for the ANC. But then was he subjected to ANC policies, right? Even though they lost elections. So he's right to say what this country needs is a total revolution, not a situation where a party loses elections and then they still go back to power. You see what happened in Botswana? Botswana did not joke with a liberation movement that's been there failing them for 5 decades. They voted them out. They only gave them 3 seats, and they had no way to maneuver. So you now have a new government there that must now prove itself that they can start from scratch, as your caller was just saying.
Okay.
The voters of South Africa wanted to do exactly that, but they were then given back a government that they wanted out.
Prof. J.J. Tabane, Professor of Media Studies at the University of South Africa, of Botswana, rather, and as you heard him there, his views around the relationship between business, the government of national unity, and in particular some of the big players there. So this is all just to help us think about, is it good? Is it bad? Is it something that is reflective of what we as the people of this country want? And where should we be paying the closest attention? That's where we'll leave it on the talking point for today. The show back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday. Up next is the book reading.
Cheers Galaxy Queens have a special game plan to display a stellar performance to collect maximum points in their own backyard. However, Royal AM want to demonstrate their royalty with a win away from home. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Don't miss out on Tears Galaxy Queens versus Royal AM Ladies the Saturday 12th April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The Soundtrack of Your Life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Soundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Gerika. Rhythm of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. This is SAFM.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SAFM presents another episode of the book The Thing with Zola by Zibu Sitole, read by Lerato Mvelase.
Within minutes, it was as if nothing had even happened. Zozo went into the bathroom to clean up while Zola called a taxi. When it arrived, they both climbed in, laughing and joking about how a crying Zozo had walked all the way over and it was all for nothing. Don't tell Thabo about any of this, ne? I'll never hear the end of it. Zozo laughed. Zola envied how quickly Zozo got over things. Zozo didn't hide how she felt. She just let everything hang out and she was happier for it. Soon they had arrived at the new place Zola had seen online. They found a good spot and settled in to experience the vibe. It was just like it seemed on the Instagram page, only with a lot more people, more noise, and the smell of braai meat in the air. "You've got something on your mind, Zola," Zozo said as their cocktails arrived. Zola stirred her drink with her straw. Thanks to Zozo's antics, she'd almost forgotten her troubles. "Well, Okuhle called me today," Zola started. "I haven't seen her because she hasn't come to the office all week." She sipped her drink. Zozo leaned forward, nodding. "She told me everything. It turns out she and Bali broke up years ago. She thought they were just on an extended break, but he was actually over the whole thing," Zola said with a sigh. "So now you can see where it goes with Mbali, hmm?" Zozo raised her hand for a signature high five. Zola pulled her hand down. "No, it's more complicated than that. He was her first love, and it's pretty clear to me that she still isn't over him. I can't get between them, not when she's my boss and I sit a few steps away from her for 8 hours a day, 5 times a week." Zozo sighed in disappointment. "Aye, Zola, how girls like Okuhle get everything. On the rare occasion that they don't, they throw womanized tantrums. Don't fall for it." Zola thought about it. Okuhle had said she wouldn't hold it against Zola if she wanted to see where things went with Mbali. But would Mbali be interested in even talking to her now? She shrugged. "I guess I'll have to leave it to fate." Zozo was just about to start complaining about how Zola was too much of a good girl when a man stumbled and bumped into their table as he crashed to the ground. "Watch it!" Zozo shouted. So sorry. A familiar voice came from behind Zola, and suddenly there was Mbali, helping the man up. He didn't seem to notice Zola. "Ntunzi, you always do this, man. If I'd known you were in the state, I wouldn't have come to pick you up. Now you're ruining these nice girls' lunch." "Mbali?" Zola said in disbelief. What were the odds of bumping into the exact person she'd been talking about? "Zola?" Mbali stopped. They both looked at each other, not knowing what to say. "This is Mbali?" Zozo smacked Zola's hand. "Wow! Can you believe that?" "Mbali, this is my cousin Zozo." Zola introduced them. "Zozo, Mbali." Mbali smiled at Zozo, his arms occupied with holding up Mtunzi. "And this is my business partner, Mtunzi," Mbali said, embarrassed. Looking at Mtunzi, too drunk to stand up, Zola cringed. "Good thing I didn't get that job at your company." Mbali smiled and shook his head. "Listen, are you staying here long? I'd really like to talk to you, Zola, but I first need to take this guy home." Zola hesitated, but Zozo answered for her. "Oh, aye, no problem at all, Mbali. We'll definitely wait." Mbali winked before walking away, and Zola felt her knees quiver. "Kaz, you didn't tell me he was so sexy." Zozo laughed as they watched Mbali struggle to get Ntunzi across the car park. Zola rolled her eyes. She might not have told Zozo about his looks, but she had definitely noticed. She realized now that she'd even noticed at their failed interview how good-looking he was. And when he'd come by the office with flowers in hand, there'd be no mistaking that he looked like he'd just walked out of a catalogue for big and tall. "You might deny it, but after seeing you literally drool when he winked, Soga, I know you like him too," Zozo teased. Zola wiped her chin, even though she was almost certain she hadn't actually drooled. They chatted a while longer, and then Zozo grabbed her phone and started scrolling, squinting through the blur caused by her 2 cocktails. What are you doing? Zola asked. I'm asking Thabo to come get me. Zozo laughed. He messaged a little while ago to say that he's back. Yo, I want to see his new car and I want to give you and Mr. Man some alone time. She winked. Mbali walked in just as Zozo was gathering her things. Nice to meet you, Mbali. Bye, she said, making a face at Zola before she left. She's fun, Mbali said. So much fun, Zola agreed. Mbali sat down and they both waited for the other to speak. Look, I spoke to Oguhle, Zola said eventually, and she told me everything. She told me that too. She's really hurt, Zola said. I know. Mbali looked down at his feet. It wasn't my intention to hurt her. Zola nodded. But you did. Mbali stared silently at Zola. He knew his mistakes better than she ever could, and she couldn't possibly make him feel any worse about Oguhle than he already did. But right now, the only feelings he was interested in hearing about were Zola's feelings for him, if she had any. I can't believe you're here, Zola thought out loud. What are you even doing here? I grew up not far from here in Turfenden. That was not where Zola had expected. She'd imagined Mbali as a gated neighborhood kind of guy, someone who'd grown up alongside a golf course or a lake or something. My parents traveled a lot for work. They were hardly ever around, so I lived with my grandmother, he explained. Zola laughed. Is that where you get your taste for iskopo? No, that comes from my uncle. He was a loan shark and he would take me to the taxi rank with him. Back then, I thought he was the coolest guy in the world. Mbali laughed. So there really was more to him than just a cheese boy living large on his dad's dime. Zola smiled. You want to be a loan shark like your uncle? I never wanted to be a loan shark. I don't have the stomach for it. But I did always want to be independent like my uncle. Do my own thing, have a business to call my own. Zola nodded. She was aware that her heart was pounding and her nerves were singing just from being close to him. She felt every cell on her skin vibrate. Zola? Mbali asked suddenly. What are we doing? Just at that moment, the music was turned up. She couldn't hear what he was saying. What? Zola leaned in. He saw her bring her head towards his, and with his eyes fixed on her face, he leaned in too and pressed his lips against hers. Zola's eyes closed at the unexpected pleasure, heart racing, but with the taste of his lips on her lips, Zola shifted back, away from Mbali. What did you say? She asked, breathlessly. I asked what we were doing, but I think I just got my answer.
That was another episode of the book The Thing with Zola, written by Zibu Sithole, read by Lerato Mvelase. The book is available online at www.penmacmillan.co.za and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Lerato Mvelase. Technical production, Wiseman Manmele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
12 o'clock on Thursday, the 10th of April, 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour,
If there's anything that comes and warrants for her to face the music, I will definitely lead that. I don't think I'm one person that would be afraid to do that.
Justice Minister Mamuluko Kubai says that she doesn't think that it's fair to assess the competence of the National Prosecuting Authority through its leadership.
We will see you hiding behind a tree. We will see you driving away in a vehicle. We will see you crossing a river. We will see you trying to get through a fence, and we will catch you. We have eyes in the sky 24/7.
And the Home Affairs Minister unveils new technology to combat corruption and tighten South Africa's border security. Coming up in sport.
I was going to say South Africa dominating in the CAF Champions League, but so is Cairo. So I'll explain to you what the semi-finals mean there. There's also Europa League action in Europe today. 3 British sides in action.
I'm sure you'll do well today. Thanks, John. He'll be back later on in the show. Please let us know your thoughts, your views, 41391. You'll be charged R1.50 per SMS. You can also write to us via X at SABC News_radio or send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Thursday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, let's bring you up to speed with the latest news with Onde Lambana.
Thank you, Sakina. Top stories. Eastern Cape community reacts to 12-year-old alleged rape and Soweto spaza shop closed for alleged poisoned snacks. For SAFM News, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good day. The community of Makwegeni village outside Ntabankulu in the Eastern Cape is shocked about the alleged sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl. She was allegedly raped several times by her stepfather until she fell pregnant. A case of rape has been opened and the suspect has since fled his homestead. The victim has been taken to hospital and is receiving necessary medical attention. The Bangulu local municipality mayor Tsilengo Sobutoro has described the incident as pedophilia and shocking.
It's really disturbing that those people who are supposed to be protecting young girls, young boys in their own homes are the ones that are taking advantage of these vulnerable young souls. We are saying gender-based violence is something that we must work together to root it out in our communities to ensure that we live in safer communities.
Meanwhile, it's alleged that a 36-year-old man had been raping his 4-year-old niece at Malipitleke village in Limpopo. In another incident, it's alleged that a teacher had been raping a grade 7 learner at school in Makotopong outside Polokwane since July last year. The teacher who was found with the girl last month is facing 1 count of rape. Trifina Ramutoboy is a concerned resident who says she's worried that the teacher chose to prey on a minor.
There are so many adults at the school, from cleaners, cooks, and fellow teachers. He could have had a relationship with any of them, but he chose to rape a child. We are also available as parents. We go to the school regularly. He could have asked for any parent's number and hooked up with them instead of traumatizing the poor child.
The City of Johannesburg's Environmental Health Department says it has closed the spaza shop suspected of selling alleged poisoned snacks to an 8-year-old boy in Soweto. The boy from Petla Township is currently in the intensive care unit at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Police have since taken a sample of the empty packet of snacks that the child consumed. Monique Lewis reports.
The boy's family told the environmental inspectors that he bought a maize snack called Stylos and a Danone drink from the said spaza shop on Friday last week. He shared this with his 3 siblings at home. However, at 1 a.m. on Saturday, he started vomiting, complaining of stomach pains and lost mobility. Authorities are awaiting laboratory results from the empty packet of snacks handed over for testing. Monique Lewis, SABC News.
The South African National Defence Force says it is investigating the matter involving its soldiers who were seen at a community march against gender-based violence in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. This has caused widespread confusion across the country, with some questioning whether the soldiers were deployed to monitor the protest. The SANDF has clarified that the members were not deployed to monitor the situation, but had been assigned to border safeguarding duties in the area. Cypriot Lamini is the head of communication at the Defence Department.
We've requested our OC, who's the officer commanding,
of those troops and everybody in the Eastern Cape, and the GOC, who's the General Officer Commanding, who is responsible for all our deployments, including external and internal, to look into the matter quite seriously, because we view it in a very serious light, and to give us a report as soon as possible as to what transpired for our members to end up finding themselves in that area. And we want that to be clearly put to the Chief of the Defence Force, which will then be reported to the Minister, and decisions will be made.
The Border Management Authority will deploy 4 high-tech drones and 40 body-worn cameras across various borders and ports of entry during the Easter holidays. This is part of efforts to curb illegal crossings. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber announced this during a joint media briefing with the BMA management in Pretoria on their Easter operational plans. He says this use of technology was first piloted during the December holidays and yielded positive results. He says the 4 drones will be supported by 5 additional units in partnership with the Department of Agriculture.
In terms of the capabilities, these drones launch within 15 seconds. If there's any indication that they are required or if there's a disturbance, they will be in the air immediately. They have thermal vision detection, so you cannot hide behind a tree, you cannot hide behind a bush. It will pick up your body heat and it will see you moving and trying to enter this country illegally. It has long-range zoom that can see up to 1.24 miles into the distance. And of course, it has a very advanced camera that is able to record and detect movements.
Amnesty International has accused Sudan's Rapid Support Force of committing widespread sexual violence during the country's 2-year civil war. In a new report titled "They Raped All of Us," the group details brutal acts including rape, gang rape and sexual slavery crimes that may amount to war crimes or crimes against humanity. The report documents 36 cases of rape involving girls as young as 15 across 4 states between April 2023 and October 2024. Amnesty International's Regional Director for East and Southern Africa, Tigera Chaguda.
What we see then of the RSF is that they continue to ignore calls for protection of civilians, and therefore what we are calling for is that they should be held to account. We are calling for investigation of the incidents that we have documented, and we are calling on the international community, including the UN and their allies, to essentially to put pressure upon the RSF to end these atrocities that we have seen during this war.
Recapping the top story, the community of Makwecheni village outside Ndabankulu in the Eastern Cape is shocked by the alleged sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl. I am Mondela for SFM News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks so much, Ondela. Good afternoon, everybody. 9 minutes after 12 is the time on the clock. And just a quick look at some of the stories we'll be updating you on this afternoon. So we'll speak to the Gauteng Road and Transport MEC to find out more about the interventions that they're looking at to deal with the warring taxi factions around Gauteng. And we heard some really hair-raising statistics previously from the Premier of Gauteng, who spoke about 30 deaths in a couple of months. And then we've also now learned that since 2020, more than 60 people have actually been killed in Gauteng, and this around taxi violence-related matters. So we'll speak to the MEC about that. And then the 3 chairpersons of the Peace and Security Cluster Committees, that's Defence and Military Veterans, the Joint Standing Committee on Defence and the Select Committee on Public Petitions and Executive Undertakings, they're briefing the media on the critical oversight work that has been done. So especially focusing there on SANDF deployments, among other things. Bongwe Kobokana is watching, but of course we'll follow up on that. Good Party, now they've taken issue with what they labelled as a secret visit to Israel by 4 members of parliament from the DA and the Patriotic Alliance. Now, they've raised questions about the trip, so we'll find out what exactly the issue is there. And then 3 Chapter 9 institutions, that's the CRL Rights Commission, the Human Rights Commission, and the Commission for Gender Equality, they've also taken to a media briefing on the Timothy Omotosho case, and Pearl Makubane is on that story. The Border Management Authority addressing the media on the upcoming Easter operations and various changes to be implemented. And we're also watching what's happening in the city of Tshwane. The mayor will present the 2025 State of the Capital Address. So we'll update you if there's anything during this hour. Lopang Alamu is our journalist there. And then, of course, court stories that we're also keeping an eye on.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, the Gauteng Road and Transport MEC, Kidibone Diale Tlabela, intends to invoke the National Land Transport Act as a measure to deal with the escalating taxi violence in the province. Now, we are going to catch up with her in a short while just to find out what the Gauteng government intends to do about this. They actually held a prayer session in Dube in Soweto this morning, and that accompanied by a media briefing. So we'll speak to the MEC in a short while. Now, Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber has unveiled a new set of technology to help the Border Management Authority combat corruption and also tighten South Africa's border security. The upgrades include surveillance drones, body cameras for Border Management Authority officers, as well as advanced equipment that's designed to fight corruption and stop illegal border crossings. Dr. Schreiber says that 4 high-tech drones will be deployed to different border posts, and these will be rotated to other regions when needed.
This is a first. We have never seen anything like this in South Africa. We have certainly never seen anything like this in the border environment. And if I look at what we were able to achieve in December in terms of deterrence and detection and increasing efficiency of the BMA, I am firmly of the view that we will look back at the first launch of these devices one day as a key step forward in securing South Africa's borders, in improving the border management environment, and making sure that we move up to the cutting edge of border management in this country. And I think the message has to also be very clear to anyone who thinks about coming illegally into South Africa. For the first time ever, we will see you. We will see you in the daytime. We will see you in the nighttime. We will see you hiding behind a tree. We will see you driving away in a vehicle. We will see you crossing a river. We will see you trying to get through a fence, and we will catch you. We have eyes in the sky 24/7, and your own body heat is going to give you away. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. The BMA is an institution that is a source of pride for South Africa. It is making progress at a speed that this country should be very proud of. It is 2 years old, and it is deploying technology, it is improving systems, and it is clamping down on corruption at a scale that we've never seen before in the border management environment. This is not the last such briefing that we will have, ladies and gentlemen, because the BMA is in the process of further enhancing its technological capabilities. There are further tools on the way. There are speedboats on the way. There are more devices on the way. And we are going to make sure that this entity becomes a source of pride for every South African.
And that was Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber. Meanwhile, Border Management Authority Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato has appreciated the special collaboration with the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development, particularly on the utilization of drone technology at the ports of entry. Dr. Masiapato says that the Border Management Authority is working around the clock, preparing to ensure safe, secure and efficient movement of people and goods across all ports of entry.
This in the festive season movement prompted the BMA to officially begin with the Easter festive plan since the 1st of February 2025 through to the 14th of April 2025. Part of the planning phase include conducting situational analysis at the ports of entry as well as at the regional level for the purposes of specific needs of each port. Working together with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, We continue to improve critical infrastructure at the selected port. In this regard, we will be deploying additional equipment such as water tankers, generators, additional ablution facilities, as well as other critical utilities from the 15th to the 24th of April in 2025. The execution phase of the BMA Easter Operational Plan will run for a period of 10 days. It will start from the 15th of April 2025 to the 24th of April 2025, during which deployments and intensified border operations will be heightened. The execution phase consists of both the exit as well as the return leg, and of course of the cross-border travel, during which the BMA will then intensify its operational activities. In this period, there will be focused deployments, there will be intensified security measures, there will be increased processing capacity, as well as streamlined border checks. All this will be done in order to ensure the smooth and the secure passage for all travelers while maintaining vigilance against illegal activities.
And that was Border Management Authority Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Well, it is 16 minutes after 12. Let us know what's on your mind. Now, Good Party Secretary General Brett Herron says that members of Parliament who are part of the Government of National Unity seem confused about whether they are members of government or the opposition. Now, Herron says that this follows what he describes as a secret trip by members of Parliament in the Government of National Unity to Israel. He further alleges that the 4 MPs include 2 from the Democratic Alliance and 2 from the Patriotic Alliance. Herron further questions the motive for the trip, considering South Africa's posture in relation to the conflict in Gaza. And Brett Herron joins us now. Thanks for your time and welcome to Update at Noon.
Thanks so much, Sakina. Nice to be on the air.
So, Brett, firstly, kindly explain to us why this trip is one that you feel needs to receive more attention from the Government of National Unity.
Well, Sakina, I mean, when I first became aware of the trip, I was aware of only 4 members of Parliament who were attending the trip, 2 from the Patriotic Alliance and 2 from the Democratic Alliance. Neither of those parties had announced that they were traveling to Israel or sending a delegation to Israel. What happened after the story broke is that an organization called South African Friends of Israel released a statement saying that it was a much larger delegation, and including members of the ACDP, that they met with the President of Israel, and the statement from the South African Friends of Israel said it was a fact-finding mission, but an opportunity for our members of Parliament to hear from victims of the Hamas attack on the 7th of October, but also to express criticism of the South African government's court case against Israel in the International Court of Justice. So it is problematic that at least 2 of those parties, the Democratic Alliance and the Patriotic Alliance, are members of the Government of National Unity. The South African government is in the International Court of Justice prosecuting a genocide case, and these parties went off and engaged with the President of Israel and other high-ranking officials without notifying the South African public and trying to keep it low-key.
So again, just as a point of clarity, why should this be of concern, and what sort of answers are you seeking from the political parties involved?
Well, I think the most important message, or the most important question that needs to be answered by the parties involved, is what was their message to the officials that they met in Israel. That would be the first most important thing, is to hear what message, given that 2 of the parties are part of government. Then I think what's important is to know who they met. The purpose of the trip, a fact-finding mission for peace, is not borne out by the contents of the statement that was today by the South African Friends of Israel, which condemns the South African government and its role in seeking peace and seeking a ceasefire through the International Court of Justice. So the parties that are part of government are certainly acting in conflict with the Government of National Unity's position on Israel right now.
So is this a matter for the Government of National Unity, for the cabinet at the very least, to be concerned about? Because is there anything that precludes these parties in their capacity as parties, the DA and the PA and whoever else was on that trip? Is there anything that precludes them from undertaking such a trip?
Well, there's nothing in the Government of National Unity Statement of Intent that precludes any party from undertaking a trip. But the question is not about whether you're precluded. The question is the wisdom of doing so in the present climate of the conflict in Gaza, where Israel is on the face of it and by the judgment, the interim judgment of the International Court of Justice, committing a genocide. It is important in terms of the kind of judgment that parties exercise in participating in these trips, given the South African government's position on this, and given that they're part of the Government of National Unity. It is difficult to find a government of common purpose when parties in the Government of National Unity go outside of the Government of National Unity and engage with governments. This is not a private trip that was just a sightseeing trip. This delegation met with the President of Israel. In what capacity do ordinary members of Parliament, some of whom claim they were on a private trip, engage with the President of another country?
So what's next as far as the Good Party is concerned? Will you be raising these concerns within the GNU or Parliament? What's next?
I'm sorry, I lost you.
I was asking Brett, what do you intend to do beyond this now as the Good Party? Are you going to raise more pointedly these concerns within Parliament or within Cabinet?
Well, I think the starting point is to raise it within the Government of National Unity structures, and we will do so when we get the opportunity to do so. More information is coming out today about this trip, which makes it even more alarming than how I understood it when I first released the statement. And given the comments that have been made and ascribed to members of Parliament from parties that are in the Government of National Unity, there needs to be an explanation, and I think there needs to be some response from the presidency with regards to parties that are in the Government of National Unity undermining the South African government's foreign policy on this conflict.
Well, Brett, as you say, more information emerging. We'll also keep our eyes and ears trained just to find out what else emerges here. That was Good Party Secretary General Brett Heron, and attempts to have either the DA or Patriotic Alliance respond to these concerns not successful at this point.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Now, some Limpopo residents have appealed for swift action to eradicate the scourge of rape of minors. Now, reports that a 36-year-old man had allegedly raped his 4-year-old niece emerged hot on the heels of allegations that a teacher had raped a grade 7 learner. The Limpopo Education Department has meanwhile stated that internal investigations into the teacher's conduct have ceased after he tendered his resignation. Rendane Ralipaswa has more on this.
Residents in Mahotopong outside Polokwane are still reeling in shock a week after learning that a teacher had allegedly been preying on a 13-year-old learner for months on the school premises. The teacher is facing 1 count of rape. According to police, the teacher allegedly started raping the learner in July last year until he was found with her last month. A resident, Trifina Ramutopo, says she is worried that the teacher allegedly chose to prey on a minor. There are so many adults at the school, from cleaners, cooks, and fellow teachers. He could have had a relationship with any of them, but he chose to rape a child. We are also available as parents. We go to the school regularly. He could have asked for any parent's number and hooked up with them instead of traumatizing the poor child. At Malipetleke village outside Mokopane, parents are also struggling to cope after learning that a 36-year-old man allegedly raped his 4-year-old niece. The incident is said to have happened while the girl's mother had gone to a nearby shop to buy maize meal. The girl's 3 brothers allegedly witnessed the attack. The resident wanted the law to take its course. Residents' representative Rebecca Silomo fears that children are no longer safe in their own homes.
I've never felt like this. I feel like crying when I think of that small baby crying what his uncle did to him. I think the child, when seeing his uncle, he thought of love and everything. But what he did to him is so painful. You'll never know now, where must we go? This is very painful.
Residents of both Mukopani and Makotopong village believe more should be done to protect minors. Poshia Kekana and Anna Maseta say perpetrators must be punished by law.
We no longer feel safe anymore in this country. Who's next? Whose child is going to get raped before the police do something about this? Before the magistrate of court does something about this, he should be punished for what he did. There's no excuse for what he did.
There are a lot of kids who are getting raped every day, and there's no justice for all those kids. Now it seems like there's a 4-year-old who's been raped, there's a 7 years who's been raped again, and now we are facing the charge of 13-year-old child who's been raped also. I want justice.
The Limpopo Department of Education spokesperson Mike Maringa says the 58-year-old educator has tendered his resignation.
We were in the middle of our investigations when we received this resignation letter. Unfortunately, we cannot continue if the accused person is no longer in the employee of the Department of Education. We are going to flag this name, send it to the South African Council of Educators. So SACE will decide on the future of this educator if they keep him on the role or if he will be removed permanently. Our social workers, psychologists are busy with the learner and also to check if there are other learners who may have been victims of this crime.
Maringa says the 13-year-old learner is in high spirits and has gone back to school at the start of the second term on Tuesday. Rendani Ralipasa, SABC News, Polokwane.
And we'd love to hear your views on those stories. And just a quick one here from Vugani Ngobo. Vugani says, Sakina, the incident of alleged poisonous snacks is the indication of government's lack of decisive leadership. They diverted to registering of spaza shops, leaving the elephant in the room, which is poisonous snacks, unattended. And this is the result now. So thank you so much for that, Vugani. And of course, everybody else, you can send us your views as well. You can either use the avenue that Vugani did at SABC News _radio. That's on X. Or you can send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 082 692 3909. Now, Justice Minister Mameloko Kubai charges that while she's not satisfied with the performance of the National Prosecuting Authority, there isn't sufficient evidence to question the competence of the NPA head, Advocate Shamila Batoy. And this comes as the public lens of scrutiny continues to grow around the institution, which has suffered a few high-profile losses. Kenny Mapanga filed this report.
Speaking to SABC News on the sidelines of the 17th Biennial Conference of the International Association of Women Judges in Cape Town, held under the theme Resilience, Women in Leadership to End Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, Justice Minister Mameloko Kubai does not think that it would be fair to assess the competence of the NPA through its leadership, despite her concerns surrounding the performance of the institution.
I am not satisfied in terms of the performance. There are areas of improvement that we need to see. So you must differentiate. I say to you, I respond by saying, in the issue of declaring her competent or incompetent, I don't think there's sufficient evidence to say you can hold her individually accountable. But I'm saying overall system, there are weaknesses that we must improve.
The NPA has faced the glare of scrutiny over a number of high-profile cases bungled. which seemingly harmed the public perception of the institution. The most recent case triggering this response was the acquittal of Omotoso, which was accompanied by a scathing judgment on the conduct of the NPA in the matter. Minister Kubai, who recently sought accountability from the NPA on these matters, said the explanation was sufficient.
The explanation that has been on my table from her side in terms of what she has done in various incidences that has come through, I think they are sufficient. They don't warrant for me to call for an inquiry at this point. If there's anything, I can assure the country, if there's anything that comes and warrants for her to face the music, I will definitely lead that. I don't think I'm one person that would be afraid to do that.
With gender-based violence and femicide in the spotlight at the conference, the next high-profile test for the NPA and the Department of Justice will be the extradition of self-proclaimed prophet Shepherd Bashiri to answer for alleged crimes which include the scourge. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Cape Town.
And you can let us know your thoughts on that as well. Right now, though, it's time for headlines, and we have Ondela Mbana standing by.
Thank you, Sakin. And the news headlines. The community of Magwegeni village outside in Dabangulu in the Eastern Cape is shocked about the alleged sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl. She was allegedly raped several times by her stepfather until she fell pregnant. The city of Johannesburg says the spaza shop where 8-year-old boy bought snacks was previously issued with a fine for operating without a proper documentation. And China has insisted it won't back down in the face of President Donald Trump's increasing tariffs on Chinese goods. They now stand at 125%. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
The rand is trading at 19 rand 47 cents to the US dollar, 25 rand 4 cents to the pound sterling, and 21 rand 51 to the euro. The euro currently trading at $1.10, and the dollar's at 46 yen 23. In Brazil, 1 US dollar is trading at 5 real 81. In Russia, 85 rubles 35. India, 86 rupees 24. And in China, 1 US dollar is changing hands at 7 yuan 34. Markets in Asia extended gains at closing bell. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 2.1%. China's Shanghai Index gained 1.2%. India's markets closed and Japan's Nikkei surged 9.2% at the close of trade. The JSE also green across the board at midday. The All Share Index has climbed 3% to 84,949. The Industrials 25 Index up 2.7%. Financials added 4.4%. The Top 10 Resources Index added 1.5%. And the Precious Metals and Mining Index is 0.3% firmer. On the capital market, the yield on the R186 government bond is at 8.21%, and markets in Europe are also currently trading higher. Britain's FTSE 100 is strengthened by 4.1% today. The CAC 40 in France has advanced 5.4%, and Germany's DAX climbing 5.6%. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,106 per fine ounce, platinum's at $930 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $63.50 a barrel.
SAFM Sport with John Gerika.
Well, hello.
How's it?
I'm sure you're good now that you don't have to speak about Arsenal.
Yeah,
It's
you
all
see,
good.
have I learnt my lesson there?
Yeah,
This is the question I have to ask. Let's start with the Champions League. Great results yesterday and the day before. Orlando Pirates joined Sundowns in the CAF Champions League semi-finals. Sundowns will come up against Al Ahly. The Buccaneers beat MC Alger 1-0 on aggregate to book a Final Four spot against Cairo side Pyramids of Egypt. So it's two Cairo sides against Pretoria side, Joburg side. Pirates coach Jose Rivera faced the media after the post-match crowd troubles.
We've been working so hard to prove that we belong to this space, that we are capable to play and to compete with the best ones in our space. And today and all around these two games, I think we showed that we are competitive enough, that we are professional enough, that we are prepared, that we want. And I think it's a well-deserved victory for the team, for the club.
So the semis, two-legged affair, but Pirates start at home in the first leg. The Duke of Kimberley on Twitter asked me why the South African side with a better performance would start at home. I did a lot of research. A host of people involved. The best I could find was it's just the way of the draw. Semi-final draw was made before the quarterfinalists were known. So luck
I
of the
told
draw.
you that.
That's what.
And then you still went and did all that
Did
research.
all the research just
to
to
come
check.
back to what I told you.
Yeah, but because you know everything. Other football news, recommendations by the PSL Executive Committee to have Royal AM's membership cancelled. There's a meeting today. The Board of Governors will vote on the expulsion of the club. Royal AM haven't played any football since December. That's because of the SARS effort to recover 40 million rand in taxes owed to them. Shoreham Kiza, the owner, is expected to be present for these proceedings today, the possibility of addressing the PSL members, so we wait and see. Europa League coming up tonight, first leg of the quarterfinals. 3 British teams in the mix. The only match is the early one, 7:15, Bobo Glimt against Lazio. Then at 9 o'clock, Lyon host Manchester United. Proper niggle in this game. I love it. Nemanja Matic hit back at Andre Onana's bold claim about Lyon by calling him one of the worst goalkeepers in Manchester United's history. Onana boldly claimed that United, who are 13th in the Premier League, were way better than Lyon. Lyon midfielder Matic, who spent 5 years at Old Trafford, was asked about Onana's words at the pre-match news conference. His response was brutal.
To say that you need to have cover for something like that. Onana. I respect everyone, but to say that, then you need to get the answer. If you are one of the worst goalkeepers in Man United history, you need to take care what you are talking. If David De Gea or Peter Schmeichel or Van der Sar say that, then I will question myself. But if you are one of the statistically the worst goalkeepers in Man United modern history, then he needs to show that before he says. So we will see.
Well, I'm just happy that's a Man United goal, firstly. Secondly, it's an interesting one. Is he one of the worst keepers that they've ever had?
According to
But then, who's playing ahead of him?
Yeah, good point. In other football, Rangers against Athletic Bilbao tonight. Rangers manager Barry Ferguson hinted at a big call ahead of Athletic Bilbao clash in reaction to the Hibs defeat at the weekend.
I was angry, I was frustrated, I was a mixture of emotions. I thought I raised some of that out of our game, but look, it was clear. It was clear as day that you could see that there's some issues that we had to sort. And hopefully the positive week we've had, the positive 3 days we've had together, we'll see that difference tomorrow night.
And Spurs take on Eintracht Frankfurt. Spurs manager Anne Postecoglou is calling on the fans.
The atmosphere makes a big impact. Absolutely it does. I think it's a big part of European football. I think a lot of teams that have success in European football is on the back of really strong home atmospheres. And we hope it's the same tomorrow night for us. We think if we can get the crowd going tomorrow night, and we've had nights like that this year. European nights have been good. The semi-final of the Carabao Cup, the first leg against Liverpool, was really good. So we need that tomorrow night because it's. I think in European football, it's a big part of sort of helping what are always tight ties, for clubs to get an advantage.
On to cricket. 4-day franchise final was supposed to start today at the Wanderers. Lions against the Titans. That's been delayed because of a wet outfield, but the sun has been out today, so they should start this afternoon. World Cup qualifying for the women continues today. Bangladesh and Thailand. Bangladesh winning by 178 runs, and Hong Kong beat Qatar by 68 runs. Tennis today. Monte Carlo Masters sees Jack Draper in action, as is Carlo Alcaraz, Lorenzo Musetti, and Stefanos Tsitsipas. And in the Masters, it tees off today at 20-2 this afternoon. Davis Riley and Patton Kazir starts things off. South African fans, you will see Thurston Lawrence off with Jose Maria Lotharbel and Brian Campbell at 5:10. Just about 20-6, Christian Besaidano tees off. Charles Schwartzel tees off just before 10-6 this evening with Denny McCarthy and amateur Hiroshi Tai. Amongst the favourites, Rory McIlroy is arguably the best golfer to not have won the green jacket. The Irishman is looking to change that.
It's a golf course we go back to every year. There's, maybe there's a little more knowledge that's needed for, certain shots, and definitely you're going to face particular shots on this golf course that you don't really face any other week of the year. So, coming up here a couple of times, doing a little bit more preparation on some of those shots on the golf course, I think is important. But once we get into the tournament week, like now, you try to treat it the same, and you just try to go through, basically check the boxes.
And finally, what's the biggest sporting event of the year? Ballon d'Or, maybe? The Laureate Sports Awards, the ESPYs? Nuh-uh. Tonight, Sakina and I, along with some producers from the show, have entered a quiz night. And we are going to kick talent.
I can't believe you told the whole world about this. Listen, I told John, I'm a sore loser, so you guys better know your stuff tonight.
So we've entered the awards, we entered the quiz night, and we will let you know tomorrow just who tops the table.
I'll tell you, we had a practice run yesterday. It wasn't good.
This has been planned for months, and we've been practicing for almost minutes.
Exactly, we practiced for minutes. And it wasn't good.
We'll let you know.
I'm worried. I'm so worried.
So it's either going